In every version of every fantasy world, mages sit on top of the food chain. Some things never change. I glanced back at the Starlight hand sign. Getting roasted by that woman hurt my pride, but she'd also given me a crystal-clear picture of what I was walking into. The path from unlicensed wild mage to certified professional was paved with gold coins and broken dreams. The magic world was the ultimate pay-to-win system, and I wasn't even at the paywall yet. I was still reading the terms and conditions. Guess I'll figure it out when I get to Valence City. I pulled my cloak tight, hiding the constellation of enchantment glow underneath, and walked off into the crowd. My ambitions could wait. Right now, I had a caravan to catch and a long road ahead. Spring thaw day. The air finally stopped trying to murder my lungs. Coldwind City smelled like wet dirt and melting snow instead of pure frozen death. Progress. The Silver Wheel Trading Company's staging area was chaos. 50 oversized four-wheeled cargo wagons loaded with frost steel ingots, Arctic furs, and some special booze that can only be brewed in freezing temperatures. All pulled by beefy northern draft horses. The whole convoy looked like a sleeping dragon stretching out across the plaza. I showed up in my trusty gray, I'm nobody, cloak, right on time. All units. Final cargo check. Scouts move out. Guards to assigned vehicles. The head of security was a guy named Gal. Full plate armor, no helmet, bald head covered in scars, face like someone carved it from a boulder. The pressure coming off this man reminded me of Rain, the warrior from the convoy that brought me to Coldwind City half a year ago. Same tier of, I could kill everything in this parking lot. This guy was the reason the caravan could travel 700 kilometers without getting completely annihilated. Big, strong man at the front means I can slack off in the back. My favorite kind of arrangement. 9:30 a.m. The east gate, ground open. Hooves splashed through half-melted ice puddles. We were moving. I sat in the corner of an open wagon, watching the massive city gate shrink behind us. Weirdly emotional moment. 6 months ago, I came through that same gate knowing nothing, didn't understand the class system, the guilds, the specializations, nothing. Just a confused transmigrator in a malnourished orphan's body. Now, church VIP token in my pocket. Thousands of gold worth of enchanted gear under my cloak. 1,000 gold bow on my back. I'd killed level 3 bosses solo, survived a level 4 raid, been glanced at by 2 different goddesses, and gotten a divine buff I didn't ask for. Life's unpredictable. The moment we cleared the city walls, 2 massive deep blue banners unfurled at the front of the convoy. Silver wheel emblems, the company logo. A grizzled middle-aged adventurer in my wagon snorted. Those flags tell every bandit on this road. Protection fees are paid. Touch us, and you're breaking rules with both the company and the underworld. Nobody messes with paid-up caravans, so the real security wasn't swords, it was money and reputation. Classic. Sounds great, I said. Means we can actually sleep? The veteran looked me over. Young face, smooth skin, expensive bow. His brain filed me under. Rich kid playing adventurer. Kid, if you want safe sleep, go home and hug a teddy bear. This is the wilderness. Bandits follow rules. Starving monsters don't red flags. When things go sideways, hide under the wagon and stay out of the way. The other 4 adventurers in the wagon chuckled. I gave them my best innocent puppy smile. Thank you for the advice, sir. I'll be careful. Good. Let them think I'm a sheltered rookie. Low expectations are my favorite camouflage. Day 1 was boring as dirt. The veteran was right about the flags. My forest echo detected at least 3 groups of scouts watching us from the shadows. Every single one backed off after seeing the banners. Money talks. We camped at dusk on flat, open ground, 60 kilometers from the city. Good visibility everywhere except a thin pine forest to the south. Hired adventurers handle outer perimeter. Do not approach the core cargo wagons without permission, standard protocol. The company didn't trust temporary hires. Their own elite guards handled the inner security. Fine by me. Less work. I pitched my tent near the river, out of the wind, away from everyone else. The other adventurers were around the campfire drinking, eating hot soup, swapping stories. I went straight into my tent and closed the flap. Maintenance time. Out came the bottles. Shadow Veil oil. That black, stinky, miracle goo. I poured some onto a cloth and started coating every piece of equipment. The smell was like someone left salted fish in a sauna for a month. This stuff is absolutely vile. But without it, I glow like a human night light after dark. Every moth within a kilometer would mistake me for the sun. After coating everything, the enchantment glow finally dimmed to a respectable matte black, looking plain and broke again. Perfect. Then I sat cross-legged and activated Forest Echo at max level. The world transformed. Wind became visible lines of flow. The pine trees swaying, the river's current, the snoring of adventurers 50 meters away, all rendered as precise 3D data in my mind. A 300-meter radius sphere of total awareness centered on me. In this world, people who trust safe zones have grass growing 3 meters tall on their graves. I closed my eyes and maintained deep sea-level vigilance while looking like a sleeping nobody. First half of the night, nothing. Just some drunks stumbling out to pee. Second half, the darkest hour. Moon buried behind thick clouds. The world pitch black. My eyes snapped open. My detection web was screaming. At least 100 contacts, approaching from multiple directions. And closer in, 15 individuals had already breached the outer perimeter without triggering a single alarm. Either the sentries had a gap during shift change, or these people were good at sneaking. I knew it. I launched out of my sleeping bag like a spring-loaded trap. I knew it. There has never been a single escort mission in the history of any world where you get to coast the whole way. Not one. Didn't they say the protection fees were paid? I grabbed my oil-blackened, completely unimpressive-looking bow while mentally screaming about broken promises and false advertising. I sleep fully geared. Always. Because I'm a paranoid person who's read too many novels where the hero gets attacked in his underwear. Not today. Outside, dead silence. The camp had no idea. The company's sentries had missed it, or hadn't reacted yet. In my 3D mental map, 15 red dots passed the perimeter line. The lead one was lunging toward my section of camp. I burst out of the tent, didn't even look in the direction of the threat. Didn't need to. My Forest Echo had already painted the target's throat in my mind. Drew the bow and released. Twang. One crisp bowstring snap cracking through the silent night like a thunderbolt. A dark energy-wrapped arrow drilled into the twisted shadow lunging toward the tents. So much for sleeping peacefully. So much for the flags keep us safe. So much for a relaxing road trip to Valen City. I hate being right about these things. Morning light tried to cut through the river fog, but the air still tasted like last night's blood and burnt stuff. That surprise attack turned into a 30-minute brawl. And honestly, the Silver Wheel Trading Company handled it like professionals. These guys are disgustingly good at their jobs. When I'd burst out of my tent last night, I fought my way back to the company's first defense line using my 3-beat footwork. Yeah, a few of the outer scouts got killed before anyone reacted, but after that, the company's response was surgical. No panic. No wasted scrolls. Shield bearers snapped into a tower shield wall formation instantly. Archers laid down covering fire from behind. The whole thing ran like a well-oiled war machine. That was a textbook defensive counterattack. Someone give these guys a coaching award. After the fight, I watched guys in black robes walking among the enemy corpses with thick ledgers and bags of gray powder. Battle accountants. They sprinkled the powder on wounds, which caused an alchemical reaction, different colored glows identifying who killed what. Kill tracking, loot attribution, automatic payroll calculation. They literally had a system for turning dead bandits into paychecks. This wasn't combat. This was a paid grinding session with HR support. My arrow from last night, the one I fired before even leaving the tent, got credited as first kill. Bonus money on top of the base contract. When the company rep came to my wagon to confirm my reward, my fellow passengers looked at me differently. The rich kid with a fancy bow had apparently earned a tiny sliver of respect by, actually killing something. The mood on the wagon was slightly warmer today. Shared combat does that. Old Smokestack, the grizzled middle-aged guy who'd told me to hide under the wagon, was sitting in the back, cleaning a crossbow that looked older than civilization. Those attackers last night. Something was off. How so? I asked. Local bandits have been bought off by Silver Wheel for years. These guys' weapons and retreat signals. They're from out west. Outsiders. No honor code. Only care about money. No wonder they ignored the flags. Another swordsman grumbled. But honestly, they weren't that tough. We should have chased them down. Old Smokestack looked at him like he was the dumbest person alive. You think this is a knight's duel? This is business. Even if they killed all of us, How many of them would die? Not worth it for either side. Good point. Their retreat last night was eerily organized. They even tried to take their dead with them. Trained, disciplined, professional criminals. Will they come back tonight? I asked. Absolutely. Last night was a test. They were measuring our defenses. Once wolves like this lock onto prey, they don't let go until they've torn off a chunk. He was right. The next 4 days were psychological warfare. Daytime, peaceful, nice weather, lovely scenery, almost relaxing. Night, hell, every single night. Sometimes early, sometimes late. Poison smoke, redirected river water flooding the camp. Illusion sound attacks. They even herded low-level monsters toward us as living weapons. Some nights they attacked once. Some nights they'd hit, pull back, wait for us to start relaxing, then slam into us again from a different direction. If we geared up expecting a real assault, they'd just shoot a few arrows from the perimeter, set 2 fires, and vanish. If we assumed it was just harassment and let our guard down even slightly, they'd charge the defensive line like rabid dogs trying to grab cargo wagons. By day 6 morning, I had dark circles under my eyes the size of dinner plates. As a rear-line archer, I wasn't on the front, but I'd watched enemy rogues silently slip past defenses and kill guards and adventurers multiple times. My reaction time was only a few seconds faster than the people who died. So every night, forest echo maxed out, gravity sensing active, breathing technique at full power. Every sensor I had running at maximum for hours. 4 days. My plan to coast through this job as a lazy background character? Dead. The enemy's dirty tricks had gotten under my skin. I was angry. I was exhausted. I was starting to fantasize about charging out there and hunting them all down myself. Old Smokestack was rolling 2 iron balls in his palm, watching me simmer with barely contained murder energy, looking amused. Cool it, young man. Cool it, I snapped. They won't stop. They're taming the eagle. What? The angrier you get, the more they want to fight, the happier they are. They're waiting for someone like you to snap, to charge out alone, to make a mistake. They want fatigue to crack our formation so they can pour through the gap. Another veteran leaned over with a grin. Don't overthink it, kid. We were just betting on which direction tonight's attack comes from. I've got 5 silver on east. I'll take west, Old Smokestack said casually. These guys were gambling on the attacks, placing bets, while I was over here losing sleep and growing ulcers. It hit me like ice water. I thought I was experienced. I'd killed level 3 bosses, survived a level 4 raid, been eyeballed by goddesses. But out here in the real world, against human enemies playing the long game, I was a rookie. The dungeon was simple. Monster appears, you kill it. Clear rules, clear objectives. This was a war of attrition against thinking, adapting, patient enemies who treated violence like a business expense. And I'd almost fallen for their trap by getting emotional. These old veterans on my wagon couldn't match my combat power, but their survival wisdom? Years ahead of mine. They knew something I'd forgotten. I was a hired screw in a big machine. A screw doesn't need to blow up the enemy headquarters. A screw just needs to not come loose. There will always be someone who can teach you something. Ancient wisdom. Absolutely correct. I took a long breath. The red in my eyes didn't fade, but the hot, angry energy drained away, replaced by something colder, calmer, more patient. Eat when it's time to eat. Sleep when it's time to sleep. I grabbed a strip of beef jerky and bit into it like it personally offended me. Old Smokestack watched my entire attitude shift in real time, and I caught a flicker of approval in his eyes. Arriving alive in Valen City is the only victory that matters. As for those bandits, he patted my shoulder. That's Captain Gal's problem, not ours. We're temps. The wagon kept bumping along. And somewhere out in the wilderness, wolves were watching, waiting, planning tonight's performance. But I was done dancing to their tune. Eat, sleep, shoot things. Don't die. Collect paycheck. That's the job. Nothing more. Freezing rain. The worst possible weather. Ice water finding every gap in your armor, killing your body temperature, blurring your eyes and ears. Spring in this world is basically winter's passive-aggressive goodbye. I was crouched behind a rock, cloak soaked through, looking like a sad gray mushroom. But mentally, I was sharp. After Old Smokestack's attitude adjustment earlier, I'd learned to conserve energy. My forest echo was compressed to just 10 meters around me. Enough to react, cheap enough to sustain all night. If you're outside my bubble, not my problem. I watched distant flashes of steel and fireballs in the darkness with zero emotional investment. Based on the pattern, this was another routine harassment. They'd started earlier tonight, first half instead of second, but probably just wanted to clock out early. Punch the time card, shoot some arrows, go home. 5 minutes later, thought something's wrong. My detection circle was picking up way more infiltrators than usual. Normally 2 or 3 rogues would sneak in and get intercepted by guards. Tonight, they deployed all their rogues simultaneously. Before I could finish that thought, the hair on my neck stood straight up. No wind sound, just the whisper of rain being sliced at high speed. Killing intent. From my blind spot. No time to look. Body moved on its own. Spotlight. I barely twisted sideways. A poison blue dagger slammed into the rock where my head had been, throwing sparks. The attacker, black leather armor, robe build, froze for a split second. One missed strike. That hesitation was all I needed. I did something that probably looked very undignified. I thrust my hip forward. My arrow quiver's mouth snapped open and vomited out dozens of paralysis-coated throwing stars, like a high-pressure nail gun. See, my quiver had a special enchantment. Rapid quiver, based on a deep-sea porcupine that shoots poison spines using compressed gas. The rapid part doesn't just mean fast arrow retrieval. In emergencies, anything inside gets launched at shotgun velocity. At point-blank range, with that density of projectiles, the rogue became a pincushion. Full-body acupuncture, paralysis edition. He twitched once and face-planted into the mud. I didn't even look at him. Bow up, lightning arrow out. 3 more rogues cleaned up with dance step repositioning. Silent. Efficient. Routine at this point. Phew. Then the ground started shaking. What now? I looked left and my stomach dropped. Rohair. Dozens of massive black shadow panthers burst through the rain like dark lightning bolts. On their backs, fully armored knights with lances. A cavalry charge. A real cavalry charge, not bandit cosplay. This isn't a bandit gang. This is a professional military cavalry unit. The outer defense line? Tissue paper. The knights didn't even slow down. Their lances carved a highway of blood straight through the perimeter guards, punching directly toward the inner cargo circle. This was it. The big play. 6 days of harassment was the setup. This was the punchline. Get to the inner circle. Yes, the company rules said unauthorized retreat could get you shot by the disciplinary squad. But the defense line was gone. Staying outside was pure suicide with extra steps. I activated Spotlight and sprinted toward the wagon fortress. 3 riders peeled off from the main force and formed a wedge aimed directly at me. 3 Shadow Panthers moving so fast they left afterimages. Their riders' battle auras merging into a single combined lance of killing intent pointed at my midsection. Too fast. I couldn't reach the inner circle before they caught me. Change of plans. Beat 1. Applause. Boom. Mud explosion. Afterimage deployed, frozen in a bow-drawing pose. 2 spotlights for extra distance. Dance step energy channeled into the clone. 2 arrows fired simultaneously from 2 positions. The 3-rider squad deflected both while barely slowing down. Bought me maybe a second. Their momentum was unstoppable. Fine. Time to use the good stuff. Deep in my consciousness, the hourglass turned. Golden sand began to fall. Bullet time. Tap a raindrop froze on my eyelash, refracting distant firelight into a tiny crystal. The panther's fangs, the lead knight's snarling grin, individual mud particles kicked up by hooves. Everything went slow motion. Thick. Syrupy. Like the whole world was drowning in honey. My right hand found an arrow. My pinky plucked the bowstring 3 times in a specific pattern, a special fingering technique that activated the bow's resonance chambers simultaneously. Dark. Fire. Wind. 3 elements converging on one arrowhead. My bow had earned its own blue enchantment weeks ago from a sonic attack monster on level 5. 5-star Requiem Resonance Bow. The bowstring is a musical string. Special plucking techniques cause the echoing wood chambers to harmonize, fusing multiple elements into a single destructive symphony. 3 gemstones ignited at once. Fire ballooned inside wind's acceleration, then got compressed and wrapped by cold, corrosive dark energy. A bomb disguised as an arrow. Wind technique added more thrust. Prediction eyes locked onto the lead knight's throat, a gap between helmet and gorget visible only in frozen time. Equipment resonance made the bow feel like an extension of my arm, my thoughts flowing through wood and string without resistance. Go, I released. The hourglass flipped back. Time resumed. The sound that came from my bow wasn't a twang. It was a three-part funeral hymn. A black streak, like death's own calligraphy brush, sliced through the trio's combined battle aura like it wasn't there and touched the lead knight's exposed throat. Boom. Wind-fed fire detonation plus dark energy corrosion collapse. The lead knight didn't scream. Didn't have time. His protective aura shattered like glass. His entire upper body was consumed by a red-black energy storm that reduced armor, flesh, and bone to mixed confetti. The shockwave fanned out and launched the other two knights and their panthers tumbling through the air like ragdolls. No pause. No celebration. I used the explosion's blast wave as a tailwind, activated 3-beat at maximum, stepped on my dance partner clone's shoulder for a double jump, sailed over the inner circle's raised tower shields, and landed gracefully behind the armored defenders. Stuck the landing, too. From soaked mushroom hiding behind a rock, to just vaporized a cavalry officer and parkoured over a fortress wall in about 45 seconds. Old Smokestack probably lost his bet on which direction the attack came from, but I bet he didn't predict that. Before I could even catch my breath inside the inner circle, the ground started shaking again. The full cavalry force charged the inner defense line. Dozens of Shadow Panther knights slamming into our shield wall like a black tidal wave. But the company had tricks too. A caravan mage, who'd been sitting quietly in a wagon this whole time like a sleeping dragon, opened his eyes and cast a fourth circle spell that turned the ground in front of the charge into magical quicksand. The cavalry's unstoppable momentum hit a wall of, shield warriors locked together, erupted with earth-colored battle aura, and held. Rangers and mages inside the circle opened fire. Arrows, fireballs, ice spikes, the works. The cavalry couldn't punch through and peeled off to circle around. I stayed in my corner, shooting occasionally, scanning the defensive setup. Besides Captain Gal anchoring the center like an immovable mountain, 3 other strong fighters held different sections. The mage, a dual-sword warrior, and a ranger. The cavalry pulled back into the darkness. Didn't leave, though. My senses told me they were regrouping a few hundred meters out, waiting like patient wolves. 10 minutes later, Phase 2. Green-flamed bottles arced through the sky from every direction. Burning bottles, poison fog bottles, acid bottles. Dozens of alchemical grenades enhanced with the knight's battle aura, making them fast enough to be nearly impossible to intercept. The camp turned into a horror show. Green poison fog rolling through the wagons. Alchemy fire that wouldn't go out, spreading across puddles like liquid nightmare. It's corpse-rot poison. Use antidotes. The fire won't die. It's magic flame. Chaos. Exactly what they wanted. Feint attack, real charge, alchemical bombardment. I pieced it together instantly. They're creating confusion, blocking sightlines, splitting the battlefield. And next comes rogue infiltration. I slammed my detection range down to a tight 10-meter bubble. Maximum density, minimum waste. 1 second later, energy fluctuation on my right. Here, I didn't even turn around. Grabbed an arrow and used it like a dagger, swinging it with 0 strike weight amplification. The arrow shaft screamed through the air, trailing white light, and hit nothing. Empty air. A feint. Then death pressure from my left rear. Aimed at my spine. No time to turn. No time to block. I jammed my bow into the mud like a lightning rod and dumped the entire charge from the lightning gem into a point-blank electromagnetic pulse. ZZZT boom. Blue lightning arced outward in a 3-meter ring, electrifying everything. Burned through nearly all the stored lightning energy in one shot, but it forced the invisible attacker to back off. In that split-second flash, my prediction eyes finally saw them. A small figure in skin-tight black, wearing a blank white mask. Creepy as hell. Then a black crack opened in the air in front of them. They stepped into it and vanished. Just gone. Like walking through a door that didn't exist. I recognized this from my reading. A Shadow Step Specialist, the rarest rogue subclass. They create temporary anchor points between reality and subspace, allowing short-range teleportation. Absolutely terrifying. No footsteps to hear. No direction to predict. They literally pop in from another dimension, stab you, and pop back out. I couldn't track them through normal means. So I did something desperate. Forest Echo, Overload Mode. I forcibly hijacked the senses of every living creature within 50 meters. Crickets in the grass. Mice hiding under rocks. Moths fluttering through the rain. Hundreds of viewpoints flooding my brain simultaneously, stitched together by my prediction eyes into a God-view panorama with zero blind spots. This was burning through mental energy like jet fuel. But I didn't need long. There, 2 meters to my left. A ripple in space, like a rock dropped in invisible water. Subspace anchor forming. Hourglass flipped. Bullet time. The world froze. Rain suspended. Poison fog became green ice sculpture. Distant sword swings became still photographs. The rogue was emerging from the spatial tear. Half in, half out. Holding a dagger in a thrusting stance. No time for a real arrow. I pulled the bowstring halfway and condensed pure dark element energy into a shadow bolt. No physical arrow, just concentrated death. Released. The rogue, even while awkwardly exiting subspace, twisted into an inhuman S shape and dodged. The shadow arrow grazed their ribs, taking a strip of clothing and skin. He dodged that. The rogue felt a flash of relief. Then the wound started burning. No blood, just cold, invasive dark energy eating into the surrounding tissue like spiritual acid. And more importantly, eating into the space around the wound. They panicked and dove back into subspace. But here's what they didn't know. That dark energy residue was now corroding the walls of whatever pocket dimension they were hiding in, leaving a trail. A black ink line drawn across invisible white paper, visible only to my eyes. I watched their escape trajectory light up like a GPS tracker. I smiled. Left hand slapped my quiver. A short sword launched out. Not a dart this time, an actual blade. I caught it, wrapped it in wind energy, and hurled it like a javelin at an empty patch of ground 15 meters to my right. Nothing there, just mud and rain. But exactly as the sword arrived, a spatial crack opened at that precise spot. The rogue materialized face first into a flying blade. Clang. They barely managed to deflect it with their dagger. Huh. You think a thrown sword can? Their smug expression died mid-sentence. Because the archer who'd been 15 meters away was gone. And then wind pressure hit their face. I was right there, less than 1 meter away, falling from the sky like a ghost who'd teleported using my dance partner clone as an aerial stepping stone, landing directly on top of my thrown sword's trajectory. My bow was at full draw, the fire gem blazing like a miniature sun, pressed against their forehead. Time stopped. Rain fell around us in slow motion. My face, lit red by the fire charging on my arrowhead, probably looked like a demon's. The rogue's eyes went from confusion to recognition to absolute, soul-crushing despair in about half a second. I grinned. Run again. I dare you, boom. The explosion from my point-blank fire arrow tried to launch me into orbit, but I'd planned for that. Wind energy preloaded on the arrow tail pushed me backward first, forming a protective bubble. Then the blast wave became my personal rocket booster. I activated every movement skill I had and turned into a human pinball, ricocheting through the battlefield like a greased eel, dodging a spear-swinging guard, ducking under a cavalry lance, and finally, splat. I crashed against a supply wagon in the innermost core circle, the VIP zone, the authorized personnel only area. Elite guards whipped around, shields and swords aimed at my face. Who goes there? Friendly. Friendly. I wheezed from the mud, one hand raised in surrender. Covered in blood, dirt, and shame. Not exactly threatening. Captain Gao, the bald mountain of a man who'd been sitting calmly through this entire apocalypse, glanced at me. His eyes paused on my still-smoking bow for exactly 1 second. Recognition. He waved his guards down. I melted into a puddle of exhaustion against the wagon wheel. Quick damage report on myself. Brain felt like someone was stirring it with hot needles. My bow's lightning gem? Empty. Fire gem? Empty. Dark gem? Half tank. I'd burned through my entire arsenal in one combo. The electromagnetic pulse, the Godview surveillance, bullet time, the dark energy tracking shot, and the final point-blank execution. And honestly, that last move, teleporting onto the rogue's face with my space-enchanted sword trick, was showing off. The dark arrow had already tagged him. He was a dead man walking. I didn't need to go full action movie on him. Got a little heated. Lesson learned. Maybe. I chugged a blue recovery potion with shaking hands, then pulled out 3 level 3 magic cores, lightning, fire, dark, each worth dozens of gold at market. Didn't even look at them. Crushed all 3 against my bow like candy wrappers. Peopee pop. Peopee. The bow drank the energy greedily. 3 gems flickered back to life. My wallet was screaming. But a charged weapon means survival. Survival means earning it back later. From my position, the outer defense was crumbling. Shadow Panther cavalry kept probing for weak points like wolves circling a wounded elephant. Then the right flank broke. A dozen knights poured through the gap. Stop them. Rangers, focus fire on the breach. Chaos everywhere. I was seriously considering whether to drag myself up and pretend to contribute when Gal stood up. The air changed. Not killing intent. Something heavier. Like a mountain deciding to take a walk. Every cell in my body screamed, Apex Predator. He reached for his weapon. A 2-meter warhammer. Octagonal head covered in ancient runes. Looked like it weighed several hundred pounds. When his fingers touched the handle, Tum. The ground pulsed twice. Like the hammer had a heartbeat. Like it was excited to see him. No war cry. No dramatic speech. He just picked up the hammer and took a step. Boom. The ground cratered. 3 steps. 20 meters. Faster than the Shadow Panthers. A human freight train in full plate armor. He reached the cavalry breach and said one word. Move. The hammer swung horizontally. Behind him, the ghostly silhouette of a massive bear flickered into existence. Crunch. That sound wasn't metal hitting metal. That was bones, armor, and flesh being compressed into a single flat object simultaneously. 3 knights and their panthers launched sideways like they'd been hit by a truck. By the time they landed, they were mixed. Couldn't tell where rider ended and cat began. 1 swing. 3 kills. The cavalry charge froze. I sat behind my wagon wheel with my jaw on the ground. This was violence elevated to art. A masterpiece of brutality. He kept going. A walking pile driver. Boom. A knight who tried to sneak attack got hammered into the ground. Like a nail. They'd need a shovel to retrieve him. Boom. A Shadow Panther got its spine shattered. Collapsed like a deflated balloon. These fully armored elite cavalry knights were action figures to this man. Toys. Then a black blur streaked in from the side. Another rogue, faster than the one-eyed, fought. Poison dagger aimed at Gal's unprotected neck from behind. Gal didn't even turn around. His armor glowed yellow. The rogue suddenly moved like gravity tripled on them. Limbs going heavy, strike going crooked. The dagger scraped his shoulder plate harmlessly, throwing sparks. Gal elbowed backward. Just an elbow. No hammer. Just an armored arm. The rogue rocketed away like a cannonball, bounced across the ground several times. And Gal just continued hammering knights. 1 swing, 1 kill. Steady rhythm. When the rogue came back for more, Gal casually kicked or elbowed them away like swatting a fly between hammer swings. Retreat. The rogue called the pullback. Survivors dragged their wounded into the darkness. Silence. Tome, follow them. Gal nodded at his dual-sword warrior. Anyone who can still stand, join the pursuit. Adventurers who participate get double bounty. Half the camp's eyes lit up at double bounty and charged into the ring. Me? I stayed right where I was, glued to my wagon wheel, chewing beef jerky. My bow was barely recharged. My brain was mashed potatoes. The enemy might still have reserves. And most importantly, I'd already done enough heroics for one night. Going out there now would be chasing scraps at best and walking into an ambush at worst. Never chase the last coin. That's how you lose the whole bag. I adjusted my position against the wheel, found a comfier angle, and continued chewing. Somewhere out there, people were earning double bounty in the ring. Good for them. I was earning sleep. And right now, that was worth more than gold. Last night's battle was the worst yet. Damage reports, supply counts, and loot tallying took all morning. But even after everything was sorted by noon, the caravan didn't move. Something was cooking. I didn't complain. Hid in my tent, eyes closed, desperately recharging my fried brain. Every minute of rest was precious. Then around 2 p.m., hooves thundered into camp. About 50 strangers rode in. No matching uniforms, just a patchwork of leather and chainmail. But they all had red cloth tied around their left arms, embroidered with a black bird of prey. Red Falcon Brotherhood. The local gang. This is our territory, guys of the Western River Valley province. I'd heard plenty about them in Cold Wind City's taverns. Normally, they robbed travelers for a living. But today, these terrifying criminals were greeting the Silver Wheel's manager like long-lost cousins at a family reunion. "Ha! Old Charlie. Heard some stray dogs bit you last night." Boys and I rushed right over the moment we got word. The one-eyed gang leader bear-hugged the same company executive who normally looked at hired adventurers like they were dirt on his shoes. Now the executive was grinning, arm around the bandit chief, whispering like old friends. Good and evil, right and wrong. In this world, those concepts dissolve the moment money changes hands. Today's highway robbers are tomorrow's security contractors. Business is business. Half an hour later, every surviving adventurer got summoned to Camp Center. About 30 of us left. I scanned the crowd. 2 guys from my wagon were missing. Permanently. Listen up, the executive stood on a crate, face grim. Those mutts who've been harassing us. We've identified them. Shadow Claw Raiders, refugees from the Western snowstorm. Ran out of food, came to our territory to steal. That ends tonight. His smile was cold and corporate. Nobody takes Silver Wheel goods for free. They broke the rules, so we're teaching them manners. Tonight, we're joining forces with Red Falcon Brotherhood and the Black Iron Warband. We're hitting their base. Our scouts have their camp pinned. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This was a major operation. Captain Gal leads personally. This is voluntary. Participants get 1.5x bounty multiplier. Loot follows standard rules. If you'd rather stay, guard the camp. But, from this moment, nobody leaves camp. Anyone caught sneaking out gets treated as an enemy collaborator. Silence. Good money. But attacking a raider camp means risking your life for real. I walked over to Old Smokestack, who was sitting on a camp stool, smoking as always. You going? Nope. He pointed at his bandaged calf. Got nicked by a rogue last night. Can't run properly. I'll sit this one out. He studied me for a moment, then said slowly, Silver Wheel's word is good. The local gangs have to help. It's their territory and their reputation on the line. Black-on-black betrayal odds are low. Plus Gal's leading personally. This is basically kicking someone who's already down. That erased my last concern. These raiders had tortured me for almost a week. I'd blown 3 expensive magic cores and recovery potions just to survive last night. If there was ever a time to get my money back with interest, this was it. I'm in. The executive looked at me and smiled knowingly. Victor, right? Captain Gal specifically requested you for the assault team. Better loot share. Assault team? The captain says your arrows are fast. Don't waste them swatting flies. Come to their base and shoot the leaders for us. Gal noticed me. Gal remembered me. And apparently I'd been promoted from random temp worker to put this guy where the action is. Flattering and terrifying in equal measure. That night, several hundred fighters, company elites, adventurers, and local gang members crept through the darkness to a tree line 500 meters from the Shadow Claw camp. No torches, no talking, just the quiet sound of people checking weapons and the metallic taste of pre-battle adrenaline. I perched on a thick tree branch, prediction eyes scanning the enemy camp. A crude wooden fortress. Campfires. Guards on watchtowers. Around 10 p.m., right on schedule, the camp gates opened. A 50-man raiding party snuck out, heading toward our caravan's location, tonight's planned harassment run. Walking straight into the ambush our guys had set up on the road. Meanwhile, their home base just lost a quarter of its defenders. All units moved to positions. The vice commander's voice was low but hit like a sledgehammer. No speeches. No motivational nonsense. Everyone silently moved into place. Twang. The first shot came from a sniper position above. A ranger launched a flaming arrow that streaked across the night sky like a meteor and slammed into an enemy watchtower. Boom. Wood splinters. Fire erupting. The night ripped open. That was the signal. Kill. 100 melee fighters surged from the tree line like tigers released from cages, screaming, weapons drawn, charging the suddenly very panicked camp. And above them, me and dozens of other ranged fighters weaving a ceiling of death. Fire arrows, lightning bolts, ice spears, magic missiles. A biblical rain of destruction pouring onto the camp from every angle. I drew my bow, fire gem glowing red, and picked my first target. Party time. Yesterday I was fighting for my life against invisible assassins. Tonight I was standing on a tree branch like Batman, wind dramatically flapping my cloak, looking down at the enemy camp burning below me. Funny how fast you go from prey to predator. Genuinely intoxicating feeling. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. The Shadow Claw Raiders had one fatal weakness as a nomadic group. No permanent base meant no proper stables. Their precious Shadow Panthers, the terrifying war cats that had been ruining my sleep for a week, were just sitting in a flimsy wooden corral with zero cover. Target acquired. My eyes locked onto the biggest panthers. Level 3 magical beasts. Most people would see dangerous monsters. I saw blue enchantments waiting to be harvested. But here's the problem. You can't just walk up to someone else's kill and start fondling the corpse. That's rude. There are rules about loot distribution. The company has battle accountants who track exactly who killed what. So I needed to get my name on as many panthers as possible without actually killing them outright. Just tag them, like a wildlife researcher, except with arrows and violence. I flexed my shooting glove, enchanted with swarm will, which let me control multiple arrows independently. 8 arrows slotted onto the bowstring in a fan formation. At this range, I don't need headshots. I just need to spread the love. Twang. 8 arrows flew out like angry wasps, each one curving toward a different panther. Not aiming for kills, deliberately hitting thighs, flanks, butts. Maximum coverage, minimum lethality. Don't die too fast. Let me get my name on the attendance sheet first. The battle accountants would trace every wound, calculate damage contribution percentages, and assign loot shares accordingly. As long as my arrows were in the body, I'd have legitimate reason to later inspect the hide quality by placing my hands on the corpse. You see where this is going. The wounded panthers went absolutely berserk, smashed through the flimsy fences, trampled their own riders, turned the entire cavalry staging area into pure chaos. Which was also what I wanted. Chaos means opportunities, and opportunities mean more things to shoot and tag. Every mosquito bite counts. Every assist matters. Small gains compound into big gains. That's my philosophy. I'm not too proud to steal assists. I'm an economist of violence. Down below, the fight heated up fast. The raiders recovered from their initial shock quicker than expected. They were hardened criminals after all. Half-dressed fighters poured out of tents. Many immediately got turned into porcupines. But the survivors started using terrain for cover and mounting counterattacks. The rogues were the worst. Once Shadow-class assassins entered the battlefield, us ranged fighters couldn't just stand in the open anymore. 2 rangers on my left got their throats slit by infiltrators they never saw coming. I switched to guerrilla mode. Forest echo at full power, reading every leaf rustle and insect pause. I moved through the canopy like a silent black cat, only stopping for half a second at a time to fire 2 or 3 support arrows before relocating. These rabid dogs are biting back hard, but fighting rogues in a forest on their terms would be exhausting. Fighting them on MY terms, shoot and scoot, never staying in one spot, was much easier. They were the ones under time pressure, not me. The battle ended faster than expected. The 2 local gangs went all in. Red Falcon Brotherhood and Black Iron Warband earned every copper of their protection fee arrangement tonight. Not a single hint of betrayal. I'd been hovering on the edges just in case, but nope, straightforward gang-on-gang violence. Beautiful. As for last night's elite rogue, the one who'd fought Captain Gal toe-to-toe, nowhere to be seen. Vanished. Smart guy? Saw the ship sinking, grabbed a life raft, and paddled away. That's how you survive to high rank as a rogue. Knowing when to leave. With the last raider down, it was finally time for the best part. Loot. I sprinted to the Shadow Panther corpse pile. Thanks to my earlier spread the love strategy, almost every dead panther in the area had at least one of my arrows sticking out of it. Beautiful foresight. Past me was a genius. The battle accountant was already there with his powder, calculating ownership shares. I waited patiently for the numbers, wearing my most generous expression. Take your time with the money, sir. No rush at all. I waved magnanimously. I'll just check if the hides are damaged. You know, for valuation purposes. Wouldn't want to overcharge for pelts I accidentally ruined. I crouched next to the biggest level 3 panther, hands pressing against its still warm body with the tender concern of a fur trader assessing merchandise. Ding. Extraction successful. Acquired. Shadow Affinity, blue. Acquired. Burst Sprint, green. Oh yeah. I moved through the pile like a concerned veterinarian performing post-mortem examinations. Touch, extract, look sad about the fur quality, move to the next one. After draining every panther of enchantments, I checked the human loot. Walked through the raider camp, rifled through pockets and pouches of my personal kills. Disappointing. These guys were broke. Chipped daggers, stinky leather armor, not a single magic item between them. Actual poverty. I'd fought richer goblins. Truly bottom-tier minions. Living up to the stereotype. I sighed and was turning to leave when something caught my eye. Another dead raider, not one of mine, wearing the most disgusting cloak I'd ever seen. Filthy, blood-soaked, mud-caked, couldn't even tell what color it used to be. Clearly made from animal hide, but looking more like a wet rag pulled from a sewer. But something about it made me stop. My eyes went wide. Wait, is that? My eyes locked onto that dead nobody's back like a tractor beam. Specifically, onto the disgusting, mud-caked, blood-soaked rag he was wearing as a cloak. To any normal person, garbage. Literal garbage. You wouldn't use it to wipe a table. To me, that cut, that shape, that stitching pattern, I'd seen the exact same design in the Ranger Guild's VIP floor display case. Price tag, 1,988 gold coins. My heart skipped so hard I think it actually stopped for a second. Every treasure-hunting novel I'd ever read in my previous life screamed at me, do not stare. Do not show interest. The moment the seller sees you excited, a 5 copper piece of junk becomes a family heirloom. I forced myself to look away. Deep breath. Reset face to neutral. Then I marched over to the caravan guard who'd killed this particular bandit and unleashed the performance of a lifetime. Brother. No. I threw myself onto the corpse, wailing like a man whose world had just ended. Actual tears, squeezed out 2 real drops through sheer willpower. You promised we'd save enough money to build a house back home. 10 years I've been looking for you. And now, the guard nearly dropped his sword. Your brother? This is a Shadow Claw bandit. He was kidnapped as a child, I sobbed. Forced into this life. I searched everywhere. And now I can't even say goodbye. I looked up, eyes red, voice cracking. Sir, please. Let me buy his belongings. So his elderly parents have something to remember him by. Name your price. The guard squinted at me with the suspicion of a man who'd worked caravans for 15 years and heard every scam in the book. Oh, how tragic for your brother, he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. Then he immediately crouched down and started searching the body like a customs agent at an airport. Flipped the armor. Checked the boots. Practically looked under the fingernails. My heart was pounding, but my face stayed in full mourning mode. Please, sir. Let the dead have some dignity. Routine check. He didn't even look up. Then he called over his buddy, a half-trained appraiser nicknamed Grey Owl, who constantly bragged about his goddess-kissed eyes. Grey Owl examined the body like a livestock inspector, squeezed every piece of gear, and even sniffed the cloak. I stopped breathing. This guy's broke, Grey Owl announced, wiping his hands with visible disgust. Garbage leather armor. Apprentice-made dagger. Nothing. He didn't recognize it. The cloak was so filthy, so destroyed-looking, that even a professional appraiser wrote it off as worthless animal hide. Thank you, dirt. Thank you, blood. Thank you. Months of neglect that turned a 2,000 gold treasure into an unrecognizable rag. The guard stood up, disappointed. Fine. Make an offer. 30 silver. I said it like it was my entire life savings. 50, he countered, smirking. That's your beloved brother, and you're offering 30. The dagger's basically scrap metal, and you cut the armor to pieces. I just want something for the family. Gotta be at least 1 gold. Highway robbery. 60 silver. 90. 70. Final offer. Otherwise I'm burying him right here and saving myself the shipping costs. We haggled over a corpse like 2 grandmas fighting over cabbage at a farmer's market. The dead man's dignity never existed. This was pure commerce. 75 silver. Deal. I counted out coins with an expression of physical pain, like each silver piece was a tooth being pulled. The guard pocketed the money happily and waved me off. Take your brother and get lost. I shoved the entire body into my spatial backpack without ceremony. Thank you for your kindness, sir. Then I walked. Steady pace. Calm steps. Not running. Definitely not running. Even though every fiber of my being wanted to sprint into the forest cackling like a maniac. Deep in the trees. Confirmed alone. My movements went from casual stroll. 2. Road class speed, instantly. Body out. Hole dug. Corpse buried. Tree branch stuck in the ground as a makeshift marker. Buddy, I don't know who you were, but that 75 silver covers your funeral. Reincarnate as a good person next time. Then I ripped that cloak off and practically ran to the river. Washing. Scrubbing. Layers of crusted blood, mud, and who knows what dissolving into the water. Underneath, a deep, almost mystical gray-blue color emerged. The material felt alive under my fingers. My cheat system finally confirmed what my eyes already knew. 3-phase wild beast soul cloak, unactivated link. Made from wind eagle feathers, giant bear dorsal hide, and black panther belly leather. Contains 3 powerful beast souls. Only the greatest hunters can master the roar of the wild within. This is it. This is it. I pumped my fist so hard I almost fell in the river. This was a Ranger Beast King specialization item. The kind of equipment that normally requires hiring a druid to perform soul-linking rituals, starting at 1,000 gold coins, plus travel expenses, room and board, and per soul activation fees. Billed separately. When I'd seen a similar cloak in the guild's premium display, I'd looked at the price, looked at my wallet, and walked away with my tail between my legs. And now, I was holding the same class of legendary equipment in my hands. Total acquisition cost, 75 silver coins, and 1 Oscar-worthy crying performance. 75 silver. For a cloak worth nearly 2,000 gold. That's a 99.96% discount. I clutched the cloak to my chest like a newborn baby and grinned so wide my face hurt. Who needs coupons when you have acting skills? The big question. How do I activate this thing without being a Beast King Ranger or having a druid on speed dial? Alright, I have a cheat system. Never mind. You and I are one in this moment. Activate. The instant my mental energy touched the cloak, 3 completely different consciousnesses slammed into my brain. One was a raging inferno, the bear. One was cold and slippery, the black panther. And one was an arrogant hurricane, the wind eagle. Let's start with the flying one. I reached for the eagle consciousness. Boom. Reality vanished. I was standing on a cliff in some kind of spiritual void, wind screaming overhead. Then a massive golden eagle, wingspan over 5 meters, dive-bombed me from the clouds like a feathered missile. Eyes blazing with, I bowed to N01, energy, golden talons aimed straight at my face. Oh, so we're doing this the hard way. Small problem. In this mental space, I had no equipment. No bow, no arrows, no sword. Just me, my fists, and a very angry bird the size of a small airplane. The cliff was tiny. No room to dodge or kite. This oversized chicken was going to rip my eyes out in about 2 seconds. Panic mode. I yanked open my cheat system menu and grabbed the first enchantment I could find, hurling it at the eagle like a pokeball. The blue orb exploded into a massive purple net made of sticky, glowing slime. Inescapable embrace, harvested from some slime monster ages ago. Direct hit. Face first. The eagle shrieked in outrage as gooey threads wrapped around its wings and claws. It crashed out of the sky like a gift-wrapped turkey, flopping around on the ground in a sticky cocoon. Beautiful. Disgusting. Effective. I reached into the menu again and grabbed something more. Decisive. Destiny's blunt impact. A comically oversized iron hammer materialized in my hands. Cartoon proportions. Absolutely ridiculous. Take this, you overgrown pigeon. I wound up and bonked the eagle right on the skull. Donk. The proudest, most majestic predator of the skies. Went cross-eyed, head tilted sideways, and passed out cold. Its fierce spiritual energy dissolved into golden sparkles that absorbed into me. Eagle, tamed. Method, slime net plus comedy hammer to the head. The druids charge 1,000 gold for elegant soul-linking rituals with incense and chanting. I just suplexed a bird's consciousness with a cartoon mallet. Same result. Slightly less dignified. I snapped back to reality, gasping, forehead drenched in sweat. That spiritual wrestling match was short, but expensive on mental energy. I looked down at the cloak. The back section, where random-looking feather patterns had been, was now glowing with faint blue-green light. Each feather pattern crisp and alive, looking ready to catch the wind. Yes, it works. I snapped my fingers triumphantly. The cloak's tail fluttered behind me like a happy puppy wagging its tail, or more accurately, like a tamed hawk greeting its master. 75 silver for eagle vision and gliding ability. The druid industry is a scam. Then the post-battle hangover kicked in. Massive vertigo. I grabbed a tree to stop from falling over. My brain felt like the eagle had gotten one good peck in before going unconscious. If I'd hired a druid, this probably wouldn't hurt so much, I groaned. But paying 1,000 gold versus dealing with a headache? Easy choice. Every time. I also checked on the 2 enchantments I'd used in the mental space. Good news, they were still in my inventory. Bad news, they looked dim and drained, like dead batteries. But I'd seen this before when recycling enchantments from old equipment. They recover over time. So my cheat system enchantments could be used as weapons in spiritual combat, and they're rechargeable. Good to know. Filing that under. Extremely useful information. After resting until the stars stopped spinning, I walked back to camp, and immediately felt a gaze glued to me. The guard, the one I'd bought the corpse from, standing by a post, frozen mid-bite into an apple, staring at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. His expression was a cocktail of confusion, suspicion, and the specific look people get when they think you might be performing dark necromancy in the woods. I could practically hear his thoughts. This kid left to bury his brother, and came back 40 minutes later looking like death warmed over. Why does a sheet can barely walk straight? Either that corpse was cursed, or this weirdo was doing unspeakable things to it in the forest. He shuddered visibly. The apple lost its appeal. But I knew what was really bugging him. That nagging feeling that maybe, just maybe, he'd sold something valuable for 75 silver. He'd checked the body himself, though. His appraiser buddy checked too. Nothing of value found. Because they were looking for weapons and gold. Not a mud-covered rag that happened to be worth 2,000 gold coins. I walked right toward him. No avoiding eye contact. No suspicious behavior. Confidence is the best camouflage. Hey big bro, got any water? He blinked, then handed over his canteen on autopilot. I took a long drink, tossed it back, and flicked 2 extra silver coins into his chest. For the water, and for letting me say goodbye to my brother. His suspicion deflated slightly. A guy who tips after buying water doesn't seem like a necromancer. Probably. I walked away, face neutral, soul singing. Rule number 1 of bargain hunting. Even if you bought a treasure for pennies, never let the seller see you smile. Tip them. Be grateful. Leave no trace of victory. Because you can trust ghosts before you trust a man who thinks he got cheated. After we stomped the Shadow Claw Raiders into the dirt, the rest of the trip became a vacation. Smooth roads, 0 bandits. Nothing but the occasional dumb monster wandering into our convoy and getting turned into a snack. We literally had a more dangerous commute back in my old life. This peace and quiet gave me perfect training time. Every few nights, when my mental energy was full, I'd sneak off to a quiet spot and dive into the cloak's spirit realm to beat up the remaining 2 beast souls. The bear went down just like the eagle. So did the panther. My enchantment arsenal was simply too unfair for spiritual combat. These proud ancient beasts, each one a legendary predator in their prime, got slimed, netted, hammered, and bullied into submission by a guy pulling random weapons out of a magical menu. 3 for 3. Full activation. The cloak now hummed with eagle cries, bear roars, and panther screams. A whole zoo in one garment. Did I wear it proudly? Absolutely not. That thing went straight back into the spatial backpack and stayed there. The guard I bought it from was right there in the same convoy. If he saw me strutting around in a cloak worth 2,000 gold that I'd purchased for 75 silver using a fake crying performance, I'd never sleep safely again. Rule of treasure. Never flex near the person you scammed. I sidled up to Old Smokestack one afternoon with 2 bottles of good wine from Coldwind City. Bribery via alcohol, the universal language. Here, old-timer. Drink. He took a massive swig without hesitation. Good stuff. All right, kid. What do you want to know? Captain Gal's hammer. When he swung it, I saw a bear ghost appear behind him. What's that about? Old Smokestack went quiet for a moment, took 2 puffs of his pipe, then spoke low. Don't know about the hammer specifically. But Gal follows the weapon specialization path. Weapon specialization, rare school. Slow growth, but ceiling sky high. Normal warriors train their bodies and battle aura. These guys, they believe their equipment is their true partner. Some of them literally shower in full plate armor. Sleep in it. Eat in it. Over years, The weapon develops a consciousness, a weapon soul. Weapon soul. My brain was connecting dots furiously. My beast soul cloak was essentially the same concept, just using a shortcut. Once a weapon soul awakens, the gear comes alive. Massive power boost. Old Smokestack's eyes got a faraway, reverent look. I heard that way out east, in the ancient kingdoms, the strongest masters of this school can actually stand on their swords and fly. Cover thousands of miles in a blink. I almost spit my wine across the wagon. Sword flying? Are you serious right now? Hey? Don't give me that look. Old Smokestack got genuinely offended. My second uncle's grandfather-in-law saw it. Well, he heard about it from a merchant who traveled east. It's absolutely real. Second-hand information from a relative's business contact. Rock-solid sourcing there. But internally, my brain was exploding. This world has cultivation, sword-riding immortals. On top of magic, dragons, goblins, and actual gods, I looked up at the sky. Exactly how many genres did the world designer cram into this thing? Is there a mecha arc coming too? Gundam section somewhere past the eastern continent. But honestly, if you've already got spellcasters, undead armies, and divine beings, adding sword-flying cultivators is really just rounding out the collection. The real takeaway, Galsbear Ghost was a weapon soul he'd cultivated over years. My cloak's beast souls were essentially pre-made, store-bought weapon souls. Skip the decade of sleeping in armor. Just stuff 3 captured spirits in and go. Pay to win versus free to play. Different paths, similar destination. Except mine cost 75 silver and his cost a lifetime of dedication. I'm not ashamed. The journey got even smoother after we restocked at a city called Greyrock, picking up replacement adventurers for the ones we'd lost. 20 days after leaving Coldwind City, 5 days behind schedule thanks to the Raider detour and the Greyrock pit stop, the horizon finally showed something new. Sunset, sky burning red, and on the edge of the world, a dark line growing thicker by the minute. There it is, Valence City. The whole convoy erupted in cheers. 20 days of dust, blood, and terror, and we'd made it. I sat up straight and looked. Even with all my mental preparation, I held my breath. That wasn't a city wall. That was a cliff with opinions. 50 meters tall, built from dragon break stone, quarried from the western Great Rift, deep blue-black rock fitted so precisely you couldn't slide a needle between the blocks. The surface didn't look weathered. It looked polished. Centuries of magical reinforcement and battle damage had given it a metallic sheen. I activated my prediction eyes. The wall lit up like a Christmas tree. Every stone was covered in dormant defense runes, sleeping now but pulsing with faint blue energy, ready to wake up and ruin someone's day. This wasn't a wall. This was a building-sized magic circle lying on its side. No human guards on top. Instead, rows of 8-foot-tall bronze and mithril construct sentinels, standing every 15 meters, each holding a siege-grade crossbow, staring down at the world with the emotional range of a parking meter. If Blackstone Town's fence was a kindergarten gate, and Coldwind City's wall was a rich man's garden barrier, then Valence City was a fortress forged from liquid iron and industrial-grade magic. Okay, this is a real city. I thought about the Enchanter Sisters' warning about meditation techniques costing tens of thousands of gold, about mage towers guarding their secrets like dragons hoarding treasure, about the impossible barriers between a self-taught nobody and legitimate certification. I rubbed my hands together. I'll figure something out. I always do. The wagon rolled toward those impossible walls, and for the first time in 20 days, I felt genuinely excited about what came next. New city, new opportunities, new problems. Same broke, scheming, corpse-touching ranger. Let's go. As we got closer to the walls, the details got terrifying. Gun emplacements every 100 meters. Black steel cannons staring down at us like angry eyes. The bridge over the moat rumbled under our wheels, and I looked down to see a massive black shadow gliding through the murky green water. That's a terror croc. Level 4 magical beast, Old Smokestack said, puffing his pipe. Fall in and there won't even be bone fragments left. A level 4 monster. In the moat. As a pet. This city uses apex predators as home security. Getting through the gate was intense. Even with the caravan's prearranged passes, guards scanned every single person with some kind of detection device that supposedly identifies evil god worshippers. A single bead of cold sweat rolled down the back of my neck. If that eternal night goddess mark hadn't been scrubbed off by the dawn goddess, would this thing have flagged me? Would I be in a dungeon right now instead of a city? Thank you, divine OCD. You saved my life in ways you'll never know. Valence City was split in two by an inner wall. Outer city for commoners, inner city for the elite. The Silver Wheel's local office was in the outer trade district, which was loud, cramped, and smelled like spices mixed with horse manure and human ambition. Mr. Victor, here's your final payment. Base contract plus combat bonuses plus loot conversion. 630 gold coins. I hefted the bag. Solid weight. 20 days of work for 630 gold. Not bad. Except I'd burned through expensive magic cores and potions during those night battles. Slight net loss on consumables. Then I remembered the cloak in my backpack. 75 silver for a 2,000 gold item. Actually, this trip was the greatest financial victory of my entire life. The clerk offered me a return escort to Coldwind City in 5 days. I declined faster than the words left his mouth. Go back to the starter town? After reaching the endgame city? Never. Then Valence City taught me its first lesson. Everything costs more here. 8 silver per night. I was standing in front of a hotel that could only be described as acceptably clean. Not fancy, not luxurious, just had a door and a bed. And the price tag nearly gave me a stroke. The landlady cracked sunflower seeds without looking up. This is Valence City, honey. If that's too expensive, try the slum dormitory, 20 copper a night. Just sleep with one eye open so nobody steals your kidneys. In Coldwind City, 8 silver got me a suite with room service and a steak dinner. Here it bought a lockable closet with cold water. Living in the big city is not cheap. After checking 15 different places, I found a place called Tumblewed's Rest in a quiet back alley. 5 silver per night. Attic room, slanted ceiling, window only opens halfway. But the owner was a retired mercenary who'd set up basic security wards, and it was quiet. I was technically rich by Coldwind City standards. But with meditation techniques potentially costing tens of thousands of gold, every coin saved was a coin closer to becoming a mage. Budget living was mandatory. Door locked. Curtains drawn. 20 days of tension finally releasing from my shoulders. I pulled out the beast's soul cloak. In the candlelight, the fabric shimmered. Faint sounds emanated from within. Wind howling, bear growling, panther breathing. 3 souls, fully awake, waiting. Time for the full test drive. I closed my eyes and dove into the spirit space. First stop, Eagle territory. Mountain cliff, clouds everywhere. The golden eagle circled overhead. We're not fighting this time, right? The eagle shrieked once. Almost friendly, dove down, and instead of attacking, dissolved into blue-green light that wrapped around me. Eagle I activated. My vision exploded outward. I could see moisture condensing in clouds a kilometer away. I could see an ant's antennae twitching in a cliff crack. The resolution was insane. Like someone upgraded my eyeballs from standard definition to 8K. Then the cloak unfurled into massive wind element wings on my back. I jumped off the cliff. No falling sensation. Just wind holding me up. I glided, banked, spiraled, and pulled off a mid-air double jump that would make a video game character jealous. Did a barrel roll for fun. Because I could. Scene shift. Frozen mountains. The bear's cave. That big furry idiot I'd hammered unconscious was sleeping in its den like a mountain made of meat. Snoring loud enough to shake icicles. Still napping, it opened one grumpy eye, huffed, then slowly stood up, radiating mountain-level presence. But instead of attacking, it just opened its arms. Bear hug. Literally. It dissolved into warm, golden-brown energy and merged with the cloak. Hibernation constitution. Activate to wrap myself in a protective cocoon. Rapid HP and stamina recovery, poison cleanse, but can't move during the process. Emergency healing pod, basically. Bear spirit guardian. Summon a giant translucent bear spirit as a shield. If it gets destroyed, need to recharge before using again. A healing cocoon and a spirit shield? The bear was actually the support class this whole time. Respect. Final scene, tropical jungle. Hot. Humid. Giant ferns everywhere. A rustle behind me. I spun around, nothing. Just swaying shadows. A black streak flashed through the treetops. The shadow panther. The sneakiest of the 3. During its capture, it had been the most annoying to pin down. Playing hide and seek, I tried to follow its scent trail, running through the jungle. But the panther was always just at the edge of my vision, a black blur that vanished the instant I focused on it, taunting me. It finally stopped on a tree branch above, those glowing green eyes staring down at me while I panted like an out-of-shape jogger. The look in its eyes was unmistakable, disappointment. Pure, feline, condescending disappointment. Like a cat watching its owner try to catch a laser pointer. Did I just get looked down on? By my own equipment. The panther clearly had standards. And apparently, my current agility wasn't meeting them. Challenge accepted, you smug, oversized housecat. Give me a week. The shadow panther showed me its signature move. No running, no jumping. It just stepped into a shadow like a swimmer diving into a pool. Zero splash. Its entire massive body melted into the darkness under a tree and instantly popped out from a shadow 50 meters away. Wait, you don't travel through space. You sink through shadows. I stopped trying to chase it with my legs. Closed my eyes. Felt the shadows around me. In eagle vision, the world is sharp lines. In bear sense, it's solid ground. But through panther perception, shadows are water. Flowing, connecting, forming doorways between any two dark spots. Wherever there's shadow, there's a road. I let myself fall backward into a tree's shadow. Cold, like plunging through ice water. Then, nothing. No wind, no momentum. I opened my eyes 15 meters away, standing on the panther's branch. Shadow teleportation. Skip terrain, ignore walls, instant repositioning. This was addictive. The panther gave an approving growl and took off through the jungle. This time, I kept up, two black streaks flickering between shadows like living darkness. Then it taught me one more trick, a shadow chain that shoots out and binds targets. Took me 3 tries. First chain went sideways. Second hit a tree. Third one caught a deer perfectly. Shadow bind. Throw a shadow chain. Briefly lock down a target. Leave a tracking mark. When I woke up in my cramped attic room, the moon was high. Physically, I'd been lying in bed the whole time, but mentally? I'd just completed a full training course with 3 apex predator spirits. The cloak has built-in tutorials. Although the panther was ridiculously extra about it, the eagle and bear just taught directly, but Mr. Shadow Cat had to make me chase him through a jungle first. Peak feline energy. Each spirit world training session was also quietly boosting my mental stats. Fighting them, learning from them, all of it grew my spiritual capacity. Bonus XP from equipment. Unheard of. I slept wrapped in the cloak with hibernation constitution active. That bear cocoon recovery was basically cheating. Woke up feeling like a freshly charged battery. Vision crystal clear, body humming with energy. This is amazing. One stretch, every joint popping like popcorn, and I was out the door. Today's mission, research meditation techniques. The outer city's public library was a 300-year-old building. No magical search systems like the inner city Mage Tower library. Just dusty shelves and old paper. But it was the only place normal people could access real knowledge. 2 hours, 1 silver coin. No ink or quills in the rare books section. The librarian, glasses thick enough to stop arrows, didn't even look up. 1 silver for 2 hours of reading. This city's minimum currency unit was basically silver. Copper coins didn't even exist here. Everything was expensive. Breathing was expensive. I found a book the size of a cinder block, River Valley Province Professional Advancement Guide, 5th Revised Edition. Flipped to the Mage section. Page 102. And my hopes died a slow, detailed death. Official Mage Tower Apprentice requirements. Age limit, 8 to 10 years old. Exceptional spiritual talent, up to 12. I didn't need to read further. I was way past 12. First requirement, failed. Game over. Do not pass go. But I kept reading, looking for loopholes. External personnel, options? Sure. Sign a long-term service contract with a Mage Tower. Serve as an assistant or expendable soldier for 40 to 60 years. If you perform well, you might receive a basic meditation technique after your sentence. Sorry, service period, INS. Oh, only 60 years? Why not just write your entire natural lifespan and save the ink? Every door, locked, barred, and welded shut. The mage establishment had built a perfect monopoly on magical knowledge. Ordinary people trying to learn real magic was like a peasant trying to become king. Theoretically possible, practically impossible. I was about to slam the book shut when a tiny footnote box at the bottom of the page caught my eye. A historical fun fact about professional evolution. Approximately 100 years ago, during the arcane Renaissance, today's alchemists were merely a subschool within the mage profession. Orthodox mages believed magic's essence was the elegant manipulation of elemental rules, a refined, philosophical art. Those practitioners who spent their days hunched over crucibles, reeking of sulfur, obsessed with material transformation, they were considered an embarrassment to the magical community. The breaking point was the infamous black powder incident. An apprentice named Nobel Ashbourne accidentally detonated half a mage tower during a material recombination experiment. Following this, the Mage Guild issued the Purity Decree, expelling all practitioners devoted to alchemical craft rather than magical truth from the noble mage profession. These exiles eventually formed what is now known as the Alchemist Guild. The book wrote this in a mocking, condescending tone. Look at these losers who got kicked out of real magic school, but my brain read something completely different. Kicked out, mage branch. Lower social status equals lower barriers to entry. And if they used to be mages, they definitely have meditation techniques. The fancy mage towers won't let me in because I'm too old, too poor, and too unconnected. But the rejects? The ones the establishment literally threw away? They'd have the same foundational knowledge, just with less prestige and fewer gatekeepers. I looked out the window toward the district that was always covered in weird-colored smoke, the Craftsman Quarter, the Alchemist Guild's territory. The mage towers slammed every door in my face. Time to check if the alchemists left a window open. Giant smokestacks belching rainbow-colored pollution into the sky. Green acid vapor, yellow sulfur clouds, and the occasional black mushroom cloud from someone's experiment going very wrong. Welcome to Valence City's industrial district. And at the center of this beautiful disaster, the Alchemist Guild. No elegant tower reaching for the heavens. This place looked like someone kept illegally adding rooms to a building for 50 years and nobody ever said stop. The walls were decorated with artifacts, trophies. Half an exploded brass golem hung from one corner. A steam boiler twisted into a pretzel shape on another. And was that a giant tentacle specimen that got partially petrified mid-wiggle? So this is where the blue-collar mages hang out. Compared to the snooty wizard towers, these people felt real. Stained robes, bird's nest hair, passionately arguing about explosive yields while covered in soot. My kind of people. Then reality punched me in the mouth. I fought through the crowded lobby to the information desk. What are the requirements to become a certified alchemist? The receptionist, wearing a gas mask, which tells you everything about this workplace, slid a form across the counter without looking up. 2 options. 1. Brew a designated beginner-level potion on-site, like a minor rage potion or unstable blast fluid. 2. Submit an original, verified potion recipe or construct blueprint. What if I can't use magic energy? Can I do it purely by hand? She looked at me like I'd asked if fish could ride bicycles. Sure. If you can extract fire element energy from boiling lava with your bare hands, go right ahead. Same. Stupid. Loop. Want to be an alchemist? Need magic. Want magic? Need a meditation technique. Want a meditation technique. Become an apprentice at a mage tower or alchemy workshop. If I already had a meditation technique, why would I be here huffing sulfur fumes? I'd go be a fancy mage. I stomped out of the guild hall and started wandering through the surrounding private workshops. These small businesses handled the guild's outsourced grunt work, mass-producing civilian alchemy products. What I saw through the greasy windows made my stomach turn. Teenage apprentices standing at assembly lines like zombies. Some grinding toxic minerals with no protection. Others barehanding corrosive solutions. Dead eyes. Empty faces. Human machines. I stopped at one shop with a hiring sign. Taking apprentices? The kind that learn meditation techniques. A fat workshop owner covered in gold rings waddled out, looked me over, and said, 5-year contract. Room and board included. Including a meditation technique? Get lost. There's a line of people behind you who'd love this opportunity. I got thrown out. Tried 7 or 8 more shops. Same story everywhere. The alchemy world was just as much of a pyramid scheme as the mage world. Big workshops hoarded knowledge and resources. Small people got exploited. The only difference was that alchemists smelled worse. I was ready to give up and go home when my eye caught something weird at the end of the street. A tiny workshop in the absolute worst location possible. Half its sign had fallen off. No recruitment ads. No customers. Just a crooked wooden board with charcoal writing. Urgently needed. Level 4 monster. Twilight giant moth's crystal lattice compound eye. Minimum 80% integrity. Payment. Negotiable. Negotiable? Now that's interesting. I smelled opportunity. The desperate kind. The best kind. Inside, chaos. Metal parts everywhere. Blueprints covering every surface. No floor space whatsoever. And in the center of the room sat a massive spherical contraption made of brass gears and crystal lenses, covered in rust and burn marks. Some kind of ancient machine. A scruffy middle-aged man was balanced on a ladder, tinkering with its guts. Hey boss, you've got a customer. HUH? Someone's here. He jumped, dropped his wrench, lost his balance, and crashed into a pile of parts. But his first move wasn't rubbing his bruised rear. It was diving for the dropped component, blowing dust off it tenderly. Please be okay. Please be okay. Phew. Not broken. Then he looked at me. Red, bloodshot eyes burning with the unmistakable fire of obsession. You here for the commission? Maybe. I pointed at the sign. What do you need a moth's eye for? Spirit amplification potions? Potions? That low-level garbage doesn't deserve this component. He jumped up and pointed at the giant brass sphere like a proud father. This is the star's eye, an ancient stellar observatory used by the Star School to observe planar rifts. I bought this wreck at auction and spent 20 years restoring it. One component left, the compound eye as the core lens, and it runs again. He was practically vibrating. Once I restore a genuine ancient construct, the Alchemist Guild will grant me executive status. Instant promotion, classic tech nerd. Bet his life savings on a passion project. Stuck on the final boss. So, you're broke. He turned red and stuttered. T temporarily cash flow challenged. I mortgaged the workshop to buy precision mithril gears. If I can't restart this thing by month's end, the bank takes everything. Then how would you pay me if I brought the eye? Once it's working, money won't be an issue. I'll pay you double. No, triple. IOUs don't work on me, uncle. A level 4 monster means risking my life. What if you can't fix it? What if the guild doesn't care? All the risk is on me. All the reward is hypothetical. Bad deal. I turned to leave. Wait. Don't go. He grabbed my sleeve with the desperation of a drowning man. I will succeed. It's the last step. Once I'm an executive, money is nothing. Or take anything from my workshop. Whatever you want. Just bring me that eye. Anything? I looked around at the piles of junk. What do you have here besides scrap metal? His frantic eyes dimmed. He scanned his own workshop and the reality hit him. Besides the unfinished star's eye, he had nothing. He was bankrupt in every way except dreams. The fish had bitten the hook. Now to reel it in. I turned back with the smile of a fox who just spotted an unguarded henhouse. Hey boss, you wouldn't happen to have a meditation technique, would you? The dingy workshop smelled like machine oil and broken dreams. This thing actually works? I was holding a tiny, glowing blue crystal between two fingers, squinting at it under the dim light. Inside, some kind of smoky substance swirled around. It looked magical and also somehow cheap, like a gas station souvenir from another dimension. SHHH. Keep your voice down. The workshop owner lunged at me like a startled prairie dog, clamping his hands over mine, wild eyes darting to the locked door like he expected a SWAT team to burst in. This is contraband, he hissed, voice trembling with equal parts terror and excitement. This was invented by the original alchemists, the ones who got kicked out of the mage towers. They created this to fight back against the magic monopoly, right under those arrogant old wizards' noses. He was practically vibrating as he explained. Orthodox meditation techniques? Those are for nobles. Need talent, heritage, and a marble meditation chamber with incense and rose petals. But us alchemists? We don't need to throw fireballs or summon meteors. We just need magic power. Even the crudest, dirtiest, most unstable magic. As long as it can light up a basic rune in your brain and power an alchemy station, that's enough. He pointed at the crystal in my hand. This is a thought imprint crystal. Slap it on your forehead, and it burns a simplified meditation circuit directly into your brain. Even a sword-swinging orc with half a brain could learn it, of course. He added, suddenly looking sheepish, but there are side effects. The efficiency is about 1/10 of a proper beginner's meditation technique. The magic power it produces is full of impurities. That's why the mage towers call it industrial garbage that insults the sacred art of knowledge. And once you learn this version, you're permanently locked out of ever becoming a real mage. That's why the tower wizards tolerate it. It's no threat to their monopoly. The Alchemist Guild's bosses decided to make up for quality with quantity. Some workshop owners treat their apprentices as literal disposable batteries. Industrial garbage? I rolled the cool crystal between my fingers. But inside, I was doing cartwheels. This wasn't garbage. This was a class barrier-breaking sledgehammer. This was Prometheus's fire for the common people of this world. Low efficiency, impurities, permanently locks you out of becoming a real mage. The second this skill appears as an icon on my cheat system panel, none of those limitations apply to me anymore. My system doesn't care about impure magic or locked progression. It'll take whatever foundation it gets and let me upgrade it with enchantments until it's better than anything those tower snobs ever dreamed of. They see a dead-end discount technique. I see a launch pad. Deal. My instant acceptance startled even the workshop owner. 2 conditions. First, I want 2 crystals. 1 backup. Second, besides the moth eye, every other piece of loot I get during the hunt is mine. My system confirmed the crystal was legit. That's all I needed. Every other limitation was someone else's problem. Deal. Bring me that eye and I'll throw in my personal alchemy notebooks too. 3 hours later, I'd tracked down the target's location. The Twilight Giant Moth lived in the Emerald Bud Forest realm, 460 kilometers from Valence City. My heart sank. Even if I could one-shot a level 4 monster, the round-trip travel time alone would take too long. By the time I got back, the bank would have already repossessed the workshop. And without the workshop, there'd be no more crystals. Ever. These thought imprint crystals were strictly controlled, distributed internally through the Alchemist Guild based on workshop quotas. Private sales were forbidden. Selling one to a ranger? If that got out, the guild would put bounties on both our heads. Not because the guild was powerful in combat, but because they were rich, and rich organizations can afford a lot of assassins. I'd probably never find another desperate, broke alchemist willing to risk everything like this one. But this was Valence City. Big cities have things small towns don't. Like teleportation gates. Valence City sits on a special spatial node connecting to 4 monster-infested regions, each representing a season. That's why it's also called the City of 4 Seasons. The Emerald Bud Forest was the spring zone. Teleportation. Number 460-kilometer road trip needed. Step through a portal, hunt a moth, step back. Doable. I spent the rest of the day in the library, burning through silver coins at the 1 silver per 2 hours, reading rate, devouring every book about the Emerald Bud Forest. The news was mixed. Everything in that forest wanted to kill you. Man-eating flowers growing like weeds. Vines more agile than snakes. Mosquitoes the size of your hand. A magical ecosystem where even the plants had murder as a hobby. Maybe I should hire a team through the Adventurers Guild? That thought lasted about 3 seconds before cold math killed it. Posting a level 4 hunt commission, minimum 6,000 gold. Required up front and full. For a solo freelancer with no guild backing, they'd need a deposit, a guarantee, and probably a blood oath. Plus team building takes time, trust takes longer, and preventing internal betrayal takes even longer than that. I didn't have weeks. I had days. Solo it is. Again, I gathered up my research materials, walked out of the library, and stared at the sunset over Valence City's eastern skyline. 1 teleportation gate. 1 terrifying magical forest. 1 level 4 moth with crystal eyes I desperately needed. 2 little blue crystals waiting for me as my reward. The key to unlocking magic, breaking through the class ceiling, and eventually becoming something this world's snobby mage towers never saw coming. A ranger. With magic. With enchantments. With a cheat system. With 3 beast souls in his cloak and bullet time in his lungs. Coming for that moth. It doesn't stand a chance. It just doesn't know it yet. The air here was so thick and wet you could practically chew it. Every breath tasted like a smoothie made of chlorophyll, pollen, and whatever rotting then immediately regrowing organic matter smells like. If the underground dungeon was death's waiting room, this forest was life cranked up to 11 and given a machete. A mosquito the size of my hand buzzed past like a tiny attack helicopter. It wisely avoided a pretty red flower nearby, because that flower suddenly opened into a mouth full of barbed teeth and swallowed a passing rabbit hole. No scream, just gulp. The flower stem pulsed like a throat, squeezing fresh meat down into the root system. Welcome to the Emerald Bud Forest, where lush and vibrant means everything is eating everything else constantly. And sneaking through this nightmare, a ratty gray cloak, sliding across the ground by itself. No person underneath, just fabric moving with its own intelligence, using every shadow, every visual blind spot, timing its movements with the rustling of wind through leaves. That was my beast soul cloak on autopilot. After fusing it with the enchantment unbreakable bond, the beast souls inside weren't prisoners anymore. They were partners, extensions of my soul. The cloak was now basically my loyal pet that also happened to be outerwear. It slithered right under the nose of a giant man-eating Venus flytrap without triggering a single alarm. When it stopped in the shadow of a massive tree root, I teleported in. BWMM. No dramatic spatial explosion, just a tiny ripple. I appeared inside the cloak like I'd been there all along. Eyes still closed, forest echo already mapping everything. Acid beetles sleeping 30 meters left. A camouflaged constrictor snake pretending to be a vine overhead. Don't touch anything. Don't breathe too hard. That flytrap almost caught my cloak's hem. That was close. First thing I did was pat the cloak like a good dog. Nice work, buddy. The cloak's fur collar nuzzled my cheek affectionately. I could feel it radiating emotions, pride, happiness. The I did good, right? Energy of a loyal hunting hound. Then I winced and pulled out another space stone, the fifth one, and crushed it. Silver energy flowed into my teleportation short sword, recharging it. Every kilometer costs 10 gold coins. This commute is more expensive than the actual teleportation gate. Here's why I'm burning money like this. This was my second attempt at this forest. First time, I walked in thinking, I'm a ranger, forests are my thing. Stealth skills maxed out, background art running, feeling invincible. Got absolutely humiliated. The plants here don't just see and hear. They sense air currents, body heat, CO2 from breathing, even HERTBATS. As long as I was alive and breathing, I was basically a walking flashing beacon in their detection network. Vines whipped my face no matter where I hid. Leaves sliced at me from angles I didn't know existed. So I retreated, tail between legs, and invented this ridiculous ghost smuggling strategy. Step 1. The cloak, a dead object with no heartbeat, no body heat, no breathing, carries my short sword and scouts ahead using beast soul intelligence. Plants completely ignore it. Step 2. Once it finds a safe spot, I teleport directly there. Teleportation is instantaneous. No path, no air disturbance, no trail. I just pop into existence. Step 3. Repeat. Brilliant? Yes. Expensive? Painfully. Let's keep moving. I placed the sword back in the cloak. It flattened out and slithered away like a living shadow while I waited for the next safe zone confirmation. The deeper we went, the weirder things got. Green plants gave way to massive purple glowing mushrooms. The ground was carpeted in soft, silent fungal threads. Glowing spore dust floated in the air like fairy lights, making everything look dreamy and magical and absolutely ready to kill me. The cloak stopped behind a giant luminescent mushroom cap. I teleported in. We're here. I peeked through a gap in the mushroom. What I saw nearly triggered every phobia I didn't know I had. A massive dead tree crusted with purple crystals stood in the center of a clearing. And around it, thousands of insect monsters packed together like a living carpet. The outer ring, hundreds of luminous beetles, their bellies pulsing with light in synchronized rhythm like breathing night lights. They were the area's light source. Inner ring, hundreds of scythe mantises, frozen like statues, compound eyes scanning every direction. The security system. Anyone with bug phobia would have died instantly from the visual alone. Past the wall of insects, hanging upside down from the dead tree's lower branches, 2 massive moths with human face patterns on their wings. Level 3 ghost face moths. The boss's personal bodyguards. According to my library research, where these 2 show up, the real target is at the very top of that tree. I couldn't see the level 4 twilight giant moth from this angle, but I could feel it. A dizzying sweet scent in the air. Space itself subtly warping near the canopy. The unmistakable pressure of a Lord-class monster. And between here and there, probably 2 or 3 more level 3s hiding somewhere. I pulled my head back behind the mushroom and leaned against it, planning. Thousands of bugs. Multiple level 3 bodyguards. 1 level 4 boss. A forest that literally detects breathing. And I needed to extract one specific organ without destroying it. My budget for space stones was bleeding out. My time limit was ticking, and the only backup I had was a sentient cloak and my own stubbornness. Okay, let's figure out how to rob this moth of its eyeballs. The Emerald Bud Forest doesn't have real nighttime, just a transition from purple glow to golden dawn light. Very aesthetic, very deadly. I'd been lying here for 6 days, disguised as a mossy rock under a giant mushroom. 6 days of calculating patrol routes, plant detection ranges, and wind patterns for scent dispersal. 6 days of inching forward using the ghost smuggling technique, burning through space stones like they were candy. 5 days left on the deadline. 120 hours until that workshop owner's place gets repossessed by the bank, and my meditation technique crystals vanish forever. Factor in travel time and portal queues. Today was my last chance to pull the trigger. No more waiting. The 6 days weren't wasted, though. I'd mapped the Twilight Giant Moth's entire daily schedule like a stalker with a spreadsheet. Every morning at 5:30 a.m. sharp, when the first golden light pierced the canopy, the moth left its nest for a leisurely patrol flight, sipping morning dew essence from the treetops. A morning jog, moth edition. That was my one window. I'd also spent those days planting presents throughout the surrounding area. High-combustion alchemy bombs, hidden in bushes, tree hollows, and under mushroom caps. My life savings converted into strategically placed explosives. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Step 1. Snipe the moth's heart with a dark energy arrow. Use shadow element specifically because I needed the eyes intact. No explosive arrows near the merchandise. Step 2. Detonate all bombs simultaneously. Chaos, fire, panic among the insect army. Step 3. Rush in during the confusion, grab the moth's body, and get out. Perfect script. Just need the actors to cooperate. 5:30 a.m. The first golden ray cut through the canopy like a blade. The air turned thick. A pressure descended from the treetop that made every insect in the forest simultaneously shut up. Complete silence. Like nature itself was holding its breath for royalty. I activated my prediction eyes and the eagle's vision from my cloak. And there it was. 15-meter wingspan. Wings that looked like someone had cut pieces of a sunset and sewn them into silk. Deep twilight purple covered in golden magical patterns. Every wing beat shed glowing phosphor dust that trailed behind like twin rivers of falling stars. A miniature meteor shower just from flying. And beneath those curled antennae, the target. The crystal lattice compound eyes. Thousands of tiny hexagonal crystals packed together, each one refracting the morning light into every color of the rainbow simultaneously. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. All swirling, flowing, colliding inside 2 orbs that looked like burning rainbows. That is genuinely the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I licked my cracked lips and watched my admiration get instantly devoured by greed. No wonder this thing can power an ancient construct. The moth was in a good mood today. No bodyguard moths escorting it. Just a solo morning cruise, heading my direction. 1,000 meters. 800. 700. My heartbeat was a flat line of calm. I raised the bow. No physical arrow this time. Needed absolute stealth. I condensed a pure dark energy bolt on the string. A surgical instrument made of concentrated shadow, so dark it bent the light around it. Some wind energy wrapped around the shaft for better aerodynamics. 600 meters. Optimal range. Goodbye, you beautiful overgrown butterfly. Hourglass flipped. Bullet time. Prediction eyes and eagle vision at maximum. Equipment resonance linking me to the bow at the deepest level. Wind technique pushed to its absolute limit. 3 seconds. 2. 1. Fire. The arrow left the string, and boom. A massive explosion, completely unrelated to me, completely unexpected, absolutely not part of any plan, detonated from my left. Trees snapping. Ground shaking. Something heavy crashing through the forest. The kind of sound that says someone else is having a very bad day nearby. What the? In my bullet-time vision, I watched in slow-motion horror as the moth flinched. Its 15-meter wings snapped shut in a reflexive defensive curl, the insect equivalent of crossing your arms when someone throws something at your face. The gap between its chest and abdomen, the exact spot where its heart was, the spot I'd been aiming at for 6 days, disappeared behind thick, rune-covered wing armor. My perfect kill shot was heading toward a wall of magical chitin instead of a vital organ. The arrow was already flying. I couldn't take it back, but it still had wind energy attached. I wrenched its trajectory mid-flight, forcing it into an impossible curve like an angry black snake trying to find the target on a spinning merry-go-round. The dark arrow twisted, bent, and thwack. Hit, but not where I wanted. It buried itself in the left wing's root armor instead of the heart. Dark energy exploded on impact, corroding a massive hole in the moth's side. Ugly wound. Lots of damage. But for a level 4 monster with insane vitality? Not. Hey, kill. Shot. 6 days of hiding. 6 days of planning. Hundreds of gold and space stones. The perfect assassination, ruined by someone else blowing something up at the worst possible second. My one chance. My only chance. And some random idiot with explosives just cost me everything. If I find out who made that noise, I'm going to have words with them. Very loud, very angry words. Possibly accompanied by arrows. The moth screamed. Not a normal scream. A weaponized, soul-shredding sonic blast that turned the air into a visible shockwave. My background art stealth, the skill that makes me cognitively invisible, got stripped off me like wrapping paper on Christmas morning. The sound wave literally vibrated me out of the I don't exist dimension and back into plain sight. 1 second I was a background object. Next second I was a gray-cloaked bullseye, standing in a field of glowing mushrooms, surrounded by thousands of angry insects all turning their heads toward me simultaneously. Stealth broken, and then I saw the idiots responsible for ruining my life. From the left, crashing through collapsing trees in a cloud of dust and splinters, came a dozen battered adventurers running like their pants were on fire. Because behind them, demolishing everything in its path, was a second level 4 monster. A moss-armored colossus elephant, 2 stories tall, covered in green moss plating, its trunk dripping corrosive acid. Apparently these geniuses had poked a swamp boss and led it on a chase directly into my carefully planned assassination zone. Let me recap the current situation. 1 injured, furious level 4 moth overhead. Thousands of enraged insects in every direction. 1 berserk level 4 elephant bulldozing through the forest. A dozen panicking adventurers stampeding randomly. And 1 very exposed ranger whose 6-day plan just got flushed down the cosmic toilet. This wasn't a battle. This was a disaster painting. Fine. If it's chaos you want, let's make it legendary chaos. I crushed the detonator stone. Boom, 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 boom. 7 positions across a 500-meter radius erupted simultaneously. High explosive alchemy charges, not the cheap stuff. The purple mushroom carpet got swallowed by walls of red fire. Shockwaves hurled hundreds of level 1 and 2 bugs into the sky, like confetti made of burning insect parts. The adventurers who'd just stumbled into the area got knocked flat by the blast waves before they could even process what was happening. Meanwhile, I was already moving. 3-beat footwork at maximum, blue wind bursts under every step, threading through explosion gaps like a gray lightning bolt. Plan A was dead. Plan B was survive, not glamorous, but realistic. Except the moth had opinions about me leaving. It ignored the elephant, ignored the adventurers. Its rainbow eyes locked onto me with the burning hatred of something that knows exactly who shot it. Fair enough. I did put a hole in its wing. Those gorgeous crystal compound eyes, the same ones I needed to extract, lit up like Christmas. Every single tiny hexagonal facet became a miniature gun turret. I dove right. A carpet of magical projectiles annihilated where I'd been standing. Red fireballs, blue ice spikes, green wind blades, purple arcane missiles, hundreds of them, pouring down like rainbow-colored artillery. Each one was small, but the volume was absolutely insane. The ground got turned into a patchwork of craters, scorched, frozen, sliced, and blasted. I danced on the edge of death. Shadow jump. Vanished. Reappeared 10 meters away in a tree's shadow. 3-beat applause. Mid-air direction change. Dodging a wind blade that would have bisected me. Wind wing. Cloak deployed as a glider, skimming the ground to avoid a fireball's splash damage. Even without direct hits, the shockwaves rattled my insides like a washing machine on spin cycle. Worse, the dodging pushed me off my planned escape route. When I finally caught my breath behind some bushes, I realized I'd ended up in the same spot as those disaster magnet adventurers. And 50 meters behind all of us, the level 4 elephant, smashing through the forest like a green wrecking ball with anger management issues. "Stop running this way," I screamed at them. "You stop blocking the way," their rogue screamed back. Fair point. Both of us. Both screwed. Then the moth decided to end this. It stopped the bullet hell barrage, spread its 15-meter wings wide, blocking out the morning light like a living eclipse. Red dust, tons of it, poured off its wing patterns. It used the hurricane-force wind from its wing beats to blow this red cloud directly over our position. The adventurers scrambled for gas masks and antidote potions. I clamped my mouth shut and switched my breathing technique to internal circulation mode. But as the red mist settled around us, I looked up through the haze. The moth's eyes were glowing a cruel, knowing red. And I understood. This wasn't poison. This was fire element scale powder, filling the air at extremely high concentration. The moth was turning our entire area into a fuel air bomb. All it needed was one spark. A tiny, innocent-looking fireball drifted down from above. Slowly, gently, like a soap bubble. It touched the red cloud. Boom. The explosion hit me like God slapped the planet. Even with applause dash and a teleportation jump, the blast radius was just too big. A wall of superheated air, shrapnel, and hallucinogenic toxins slammed into my back like a freight train made of fire and bad decisions. HURK, internal organs, rearranging themselves. Bear Spirit Guardian, activate. A massive spectral bear erupted from my cloak, roaring, planting itself between me and the apocalypse with its mountain-wide back. For 2 beautiful seconds, it tanked the full force of a level 4 dust explosion meant to vaporize everything in a 100-meter radius. Then it shattered into golden sparks. 2 seconds was enough. Eagle Wind Wings, activate. My cloak didn't wait for my permission. The eagle's soul took over, deploying massive wind element wings and launching us both out of the inferno like a desperate mother bird carrying its baby from a forest fire. I could feel the cloak's emotions, pure panic, pure, "I am not letting my human die today," energy. The last thing I saw before blacking out was the moss elephant charging into the fire zone and body slamming the wounded moth. 2 level 4 monsters brawling in a sea of flames. Then, darkness. Warm, cozy darkness. Like being wrapped in the world's softest blanket inside the world's safest cocoon. Hibernation mode had triggered automatically. My cloak had wrapped around me like a chrysalis the moment I lost consciousness. Healing, regenerating, keeping me alive while I was completely helpless somewhere in the forest. When I woke up, sunlight was filtering through leaves above me. Did I sleep an entire day? I sat up, checked my body. Arms, working. Legs, functional. Head, still attached. Clothes were burnt in a few spots. Everything was sore, but somehow, I was completely fine. No injuries. 0. The Bear Shield plus Hibernation healing had pulled off a miracle. The cloak nuzzled my face immediately. Worried energy, relieved energy, please never do that again, energy. Like a loyal dog that stayed by your hospital bed for 24 hours. "I'm okay, buddy. I'm okay." I stroked the rough fabric gently. "Thank you. Without that bear shield, I'd be a charcoal briquette right now." Quick status check. Bear soul was exhausted, no guardian shield available for a while. Everything else functional. I followed the distant sounds of combat back toward the moth's territory. Took half a day of sneaking past level 3 monsters, but I finally reached a vantage point. And what I found was the most dramatic nature documentary I'd ever witnessed. The moss elephant was gone. In its place, 2 new level 4 monsters were tag-teaming the moth. A 10-meter steel-feathered crested war eagle generating tornado-strength wind blades, and a smaller but terrifyingly sneaky shadow leaf owl that kept blinking through darkness and slashing the moth every time it appeared. Both brought armies, hundreds of storm hawks and shadow bats mobbing the moth's remaining insect forces. A full-scale gang war. Turf dispute. Hostile corporate takeover. I squatted in the shadows, activated my observation skills, and assessed the situation while eating beef jerky. Dinner and a show. The moth was destroyed. Wings shredded, covered in burns and acid marks. My dark energy wound on its left wing was still bleeding black pus. The corruption had prevented any healing for over a day. Its rainbow bullet attack had slowed to a pathetic trickle. It was barely staying airborne. But, and this was the critical part, those crystal compound eyes? Still intact. Slightly dimmer, but whole. My payday was still attached to its face. Maybe I can just wait for these two to finish it off and then steal the corpse. I was mid-chew when something unexpected happened. The moth let out a long, mournful cry. Not angry, not aggressive, just sad, ancient, final. Both attacking level 4s stopped. Their armies froze. Everyone just stood down. The moth slowly, painfully flew one last circle around its ancient dead tree. Glowing dust fell from its tattered wings onto the branches, a final offering. A goodbye to the home it had guarded for who knows how many centuries. Then it turned and flew away, toward the forest's edge. Its remaining insect followers formed up behind it in a somber procession. The two victors didn't chase, didn't attack. They watched it leave with something that looked almost like respect. Are you kidding me? Monsters have honor codes? There's a chivalric system among magical beasts. Loser surrenders territory. Winner grants safe passage. No finishing blows. Just dignified transfer of power. Beautiful, noble, deeply touching, and completely irrelevant to my plans. That's very moving. Really. But I'm a ranger who desperately needs a meditation technique. And that, I pointed at the retreating moth, is a critically wounded level 4 monster carrying crystal eyes worth more than my entire net worth, limping away from its support network. With no backup and no healing. The monsters have their code of honor. I have a deadline. I pulled my cloak tight, dissolved into the shadows, and followed the trail of glowing scale dust like a wolf tracking a wounded deer. Sorry, Big Moth. The Forest Kings let you leave with dignity. But I'm not a Forest King. I'm a broke guy with bills to pay. Following the moth's glitter trail was the easiest tracking job of my career. The moth's remaining minions were bulldozing a path through the forest ahead of me. Every aggressive plant and territorial monster just noping out of the way when they saw 100 injured but still terrifying bugs marching past. I basically had a free highway. By evening, the moth picked its new home, a recessed cliff face with good natural defenses. Prime real estate in monster terms. The previous tenant, a level 3 toxic swamp rock lizard the size of a tank, took one look at the moth's shadow overhead, felt that level 4 pressure wash over it, and literally ran away. Didn't fight, didn't posture, just tucked its tail and bolted into the forest like someone yelled, "Fire! Where are you going? Where's your pride?" I was screaming internally from my tree half a kilometer away. I'd been counting on this lizard to pick a fight with the wounded moth. Even if it got killed in 10 seconds, it would have drained some of the moth's remaining energy. Made my job easier. But no, monsters are apparently more practical than humans. Can't win. Don't fight. Just leave. Zero ego. Maximum survival instinct. Fine. I'll do it myself. Night fell. The exhausted insect army scattered to sleep in the surrounding jungle. The moth settled on a large rock ledge halfway up the cliff. Hidden, hard to reach, and defensively perfect. Of the 5 level 3 bodyguards it originally had, only one survived the day. A single ghost-faced moth hanging from a dead tree at the cliff's perimeter. Otherwise, no guards, no sentries, nothing. Either the moth was too depressed about losing its kingdom to organize security, or level 4 monsters need absolute silence while healing. Thank you, universe. I activated wind wings and glided in silently like a ghost owl, landing on a rock 200 meters from the sleeping giant. Peeked out. There it was. Broken wings draped limply, massive body rising and falling with each breath. But through my prediction eyes, OHNO, the moth was healing. Fast. Sucking in green life energy from the forest air like a biological vacuum cleaner. Burn marks were scabbing over. Deep gashes were already growing pink new flesh. Level 4 regeneration is disgusting. If I waited until morning, this thing would be combat ready again. shooting rainbow death bullets at my face. Again, no more waiting. I knelt. Bow up. Every skill I had. Online. The plan, a layered kill combo designed for one sleeping target. First arrow, dark-wrapped lightning. Dark energy coating on the outside to slip past the moth's passive sleeping defenses, compressed lightning on the inside for maximum internal damage. A Trojan horse arrow. I loaded everything. Prediction eyes, eagle vision, equipment resonance, bullet time, wind technique. Full power. The arrow flew 200 meters in silence. Slipped through the moth's unconscious detection field like it was invisible. Punched straight into an unhealed wound on its belly. The dark shell dissolved. Lightning erupted inside its body. The moth's entire frame seized up, arching off the rock like it had been electrocuted, because it had been, then slammed back down, rigid and paralyzed. My hands were already blurring. 3 ice arrows. Throat, throat, throat. Crack, crack, crack. Its vocal cords and mouth froze solid. No sonic scream. No calling for help. The SOS died in its frozen throat. I closed distance with spotlight steps. Bow drawn again. Armor-piercing arrows. 4, 5 shots hammering into the cracked chest plate, protecting its heart. The damaged shell, already weakened from the daytime battle, shattered open. Heart exposed. One last arrow. Pure dark energy. Death incarnate. I released. Black flash. Straight into the beating heart. Dark corruption severed every thread of life, force simultaneously. The moth convulsed twice. Went limp. Those magnificent rainbow eyes dimmed, and went dark. 2 dead glass marbles where burning rainbows used to be. Total time from first arrow to confirmed kill, 58 seconds. Lightning paralysis for control. Ice to silence the screams. Heavy arrows to crack the armor. Shadow bolt to stop the heart. No epic magical duel. No dramatic back and forth. Just a cold, calculated, 4-step murder combo executed with surgical precision on a sleeping patient. I am not a hero. I am an assassin with a shopping list. Finally, I wiped the cold sweat off my forehead and rushed to the body. Eyes intact. Perfect condition. That's all I needed. Slapped a high-grade space stone on the corpse and sealed the entire massive carcass into storage. Evidence, gone. Body gone. Rock ledge, empty. Flawless. The bugs below hadn't even stirred. The ghost-faced moth on the dead tree, still hanging there, apparently fast asleep. I gave myself a perfect score for this stealth assassination. In, kill, loot out. Ghost mode. 0 witnesses. Wind wings deployed. I pulled my cloak around me and soared into the night sky, heading for the forest exit and the teleportation gate beyond it. Behind me, the cliff grew smaller in the darkness. What I didn't know, what I had absolutely no idea about, was that the sleeping, ghost-faced moth had been awake the entire time. It watched me arrive, watched me set up, watched me execute its king with a 4-step combo, watched me loot the body and fly away. And it did nothing. Not because it was scared, not because it was loyal, because the old king's death was exactly what it wanted. The moment I disappeared over the tree lean, the ghost-faced moth unfolded its wings, flew to the now empty royal ledge, and let out a single, commanding cry into the moonlight. A declaration of sovereignty. A new ruler claiming the throne. Monsters have codes of honor, sure. The 2 level 4 victors had let the moth leave with dignity. But monster politics? Betrayal, manipulation, letting an outside assassin do your dirty work so your claws stay clean? That's a level of scheming that would make human nobles jealous. The ghost-faced moth had just used me as its unwitting hitman. It watched its boss get murdered, did nothing to help, and immediately promoted itself to king. And I flew away thinking I was so clever. We were both predators tonight. I just didn't realize I was also someone else's tool. But hey, I got my moth eyes. That's all that matters, right? When I stepped out of the spring bud teleportation gate, my boots were caked in purple mud and my brain was running on fumes. The trip back had been a nightmare. The monster turf war I accidentally started had triggered a beast stampede near the portal zone, forcing me to take a massive detour. Then the teleportation queue was 2 miles long. I ended up bribing the gate guard with over 10 gold coins just to cut in line. No shower, no rest, straight to the workshop. But when I turned into that familiar alley, my stomach dropped. 2 fancy carriages with Gold Wheat Union Bank crests parked outside. 8 guys in crisp black suits standing around with thick stacks of paperwork and sealing tape. Repo men. The bank had come to collect. Inside, the workshop owner was on the floor, bear-hugging a rusty wrench, crying his eyes out. You can't take this. This was my grandfather's. He fought in the Frost Wolf campaign. You vampires. Leave me something. Sir, per the mortgage agreement, every asset in this workshop, including individual screws, now belongs to the bank. The lead repo man was trying to pry the wrench away with the emotional range of a tax form. I scanned the room and noticed something interesting. The massive, ancient construct, the star's eye that the old man had spent 20 years rebuilding, was gone. So were all the valuable alchemy cores and magic crystals that used to be scattered around. The only things left were worthless junk and empty shelves. This sneaky old fox moved everything out before the bank showed up. The crying, the wrench hugging, the dramatic floor rolling. It was all theater. He was stalling while his real assets sat safely somewhere else. Oscar-worthy performance. I recognized a fellow con artist when I saw one. Then his tear-filled eyes spotted me at the alley entrance. For exactly 0.1 seconds, pure joy exploded across his face. Then it vanished, buried under fresh fake sobbing so fast I almost thought I'd imagined it. Fine. Take the wrench. Take everything. I'm going to the magistrate. You'll hear from my lawyer. He stormed out of the workshop, fake stumbling past me without even glancing in my direction. Through clenched teeth, barely moving his lips. Follow me. I pulled my hood down and trailed him at a casual distance. We zigzagged through Valence City for 30 minutes, back alleys, side streets, random turns, until we were completely clear of the industrial district. Then he stopped in a dead-end alley and grabbed my arm, palms ice cold and sweating. Did you get it? Got it. Hit some complications. That's why I'm late. I asked the deal still on. I asked, because that was the only thing that mattered. Yes, yes, yes. Not late. Right on time. Everything's fine. His personality flipped from broken wretch to manic genius in half a second. He was practically dragging me down the street. As long as you have the eye, everything is still possible. Come, come. He led me to a residential area near the slum border. Cramped buildings, narrow streets. Not terrible, but definitely, we've seen better days, territory. He knocked on a warehouse door in a specific rhythm. It opened, and inside was not what I expected. Instead of chaos and machine oil, it was clean, tidy, warm, and it smelled like potato beef stew. A gentle-looking woman in a faded apron was cooking at a small stove. A freckle-faced girl, maybe 11 or 12, was helping peel potatoes. Honey, the bank, the wife started. All handled, Mary. Everything's fine. And just like that, in the time it took to step through a doorway, the manic, bloodshot-eyed lunatic transformed into a tired, gentle, ordinary husband and father. Shoulders slightly hunched. Voice soft. Smile warm. Mary, Anna. This is Mr. Victor. A business friend. He's here to settle some remaining accounts. I took off my hood and bowed slightly. Apologies for the intrusion, ma'am. I was genuinely impressed. Valence City was full of obsessive alchemists and unhinged spellcasters, but a man who could perfectly separate workplace insanity from family warmth, who could leave all the crazy outside and walk through his front door as just a dad. That took real emotional discipline. A controlled madman is far more impressive than a regular madman. Anna, make Mr. Victor some tea. I'll take him to the basement to check some inventory. Won't be long. He ruffled his daughter's hair, then turned to me with a polite, after you, gesture. But I saw the fire reigniting behind his eyes. The basement was tiny. The stars I construct barely fit, lying on its side across the entire floor. The moment the door closed, the father disappeared and the lunatic returned. The eyes. Show me the eyes. I pulled out the crystal compound eyes from my spatial backpack. The dim basement exploded with color. Thousands of hexagonal crystal facets caught even the faintest light and shattered it into rainbow fragments dancing across every wall. Even removed from the dead moth, these level 4 materials were breathtakingly gorgeous. The old man was trembling, hands shaking, reaching out like a man seeing water after a week in the desert. Perfect. Perfect. Just connect this to the central circuit and the stars' eye lives again. Those blind fools at the guild will finally. His fingers were millimeters from the eyes when my right hand flipped them away. Left hand extended, palm up. Payment first. He froze, looked at my ice-cold eyes, then laughed bitterly and slapped his own forehead. Sorry, got carried away. He reached into an inner pocket and pulled out a carefully folded piece of anti-magic parchment. Inside, 2 small crystals glowing faint blue. Thought imprint crystals. My meditation technique. The entire reason I'd spent 6 days hiding in a nightmare forest, fought a level 4 moth, nearly died in a dust explosion, and bribed a teleportation guard. As promised, 2 crystals. He placed them in my open palm. But as a friend, I should warn you, the magic power this produces is extremely impure. Higher-tier versions are monopolized by guild leadership. For a high-level ranger like yourself, this level of magic won't help much. I didn't care about any of that. Not even a little bit. My system scanned the crystals instantly. Thought imprint crystal, low quality. Beginner crucible meditation technique type. Knowledge consumable effect. Forcibly imprints a simplified, incomplete, meditation circuit into the user's mental pathways. Warning, long-term use causes impure magic accumulation, locks spiritual growth ceiling, high risk of magical backlash. Impure magic? Growth ceiling? Backlash risk? Those are other people's problems. The second my cheat system accepts this as a learnable skill, every limitation becomes irrelevant. I'll enchant it, upgrade it, evolve it with purple tier enchantments until it's better than anything their precious mage towers ever produced. They see a defective discount product. I see a foundation. Pleasure doing business. I handed over the compound eyes. The old man snatched them and immediately forgot I existed. He was already sprawled across the ancient construct, pulling out bizarre tools, muttering equations. I showed myself out. Upstairs, the stew was ready. I politely declined dinner, told Mary her husband was still inspecting merchandise, said I had urgent business. I waved goodbye to the freckle-faced girl and stepped into the night. Valence City's nightlife was just starting. Taverns glowing, music playing, people laughing. I had zero interest in any of it. 2 small crystals in my pocket, cool against my fingers. Worth more than gold, worth more than the moth's eyes, worth more than anything I'd ever held. My ticket to magic. My key to breaking through every ceiling this world had built to keep people like me at the bottom. I walked faster, then faster, nearly running. Destination, my tiny attic room at Tumbleweed's Rest. Tonight, I become a mage. Well, a really, really bad mage. But that's just the starting point. I sat cross-legged on my cheap hotel bed, holding the 2 blue crystals like they were the holy grail and a winning lottery ticket combined. Hope 1 is enough for my mental capacity, no more hesitation. I grabbed crystal number 1 and slapped it onto my forehead like a nicotine patch for wizards. Crack. The crystal shattered into fine blue powder. And then a massive flood of raw, rough-edged information rammed through my mental defenses like a battering ram made of textbooks. Not a gentle download. A forced installation. My brain's firewall got kicked in and knowledge was being shoved into every available space. I grunted through clenched teeth, enduring 30 seconds of what felt like someone hammering a USB drive into my skull with a mallet. Then it stopped. The pain ebbed away. Golden notification, acquired. Beginner Crucible Meditation Technique. LV.1. I rubbed my throbbing temples and opened the skill description. Basically, build a mental cauldron. Visualize ambient elements as ingredients, 3 vines and 2 leaves. Drop leaves in first, slow cook them over low mental fire. After they release their essence, add the vines. Crank up the heat. The vines shrivel and char, eventually producing a tiny drop of magic juice. This was a cooking recipe. For magic, I dove into my mental space to see what I was working with. In the center of my previously empty mindscape sat a pot. A big, black, ugly iron pot. Chipped edges. Rust stains. A few pathetic dark red flames flickering weakly underneath, looking like they might die of embarrassment. This pot couldn't even make decent soup, let alone produce magical energy. This is my meditation tool? I'm supposed to become a mage with this? Am I brewing magic or making grandma's mystery stew? The process, according to the workshop owner, takes a normal apprentice 2.5 hours to produce 1 drop of magic liquid. And that liquid is so impure that the academic world calls it inert magic, a term dripping with contempt. Compared to proper mage tower meditation techniques, this crud produces roughly 1/10 the energy. It's the magical equivalent of watered-down gas station coffee versus artisan espresso. No wonder prolonged use locks your spiritual growth. This thing is basically a career dead-end shaped like cookware. I circled the sad iron pot, face scrunched in disgust. I did not assassinate a level 4 moth in my sleep to stand here stirring a cauldron for 2.5 hours like a medieval lunch lady. Time to fix this. A gorgeous purple orb materialized in my mental space. The enchantment I'd extracted from the twilight giant moth. Iridescent splendor, purple. Let's show this garbage pot what a real upgrade looks like. I grabbed the purple orb and slammed it into the black iron cauldron. Flash. The explosion of light was blinding. Then, just like the moth's wings, millions of shimmering, rainbow-colored scale particles materialized out of nowhere, swirling through my mental space like a magical snowstorm. They converged on the pot, layer after layer after layer, coating the ugly iron in thick, luminous cocoon. Within seconds, the entire cauldron was encased in a massive, glowing chrysalis. Crack. The cocoon split. Black iron fragments crumbled away like dead skin, dissolving into nothing. Piece by piece, the ugly old pot shed its miserable exterior. What emerged was something from a completely different universe of craftsmanship. A half-transparent crystal crucible, hovering in the center of my mindscape, glowing with soft prismatic light. Every surface was smooth, geometric, perfect, like a piece of laboratory equipment designed by angels. It looked like it belonged in a sci-fi movie, not in a broke ranger's brain. Skill evolution successful. Acquired. Prismatic Crystal Crucible Meditation Technique. LV.8. New description. The crucible has shed its crude iron form and become a translucent optical prism. No more tedious ingredient visualization. Instead, gather ambient elements into a focused, light beam and fire it directly into the crystal. Upon contact, the beam refracts into a full spectrum, each color representing a different elemental type. The prism continuously deconstructs the input, precisely separating each element, and distills pure magic, lustrous quality. Optical prism, spectral refraction, from medieval sweatshop cauldron to advanced magical optics laboratory in one upgrade. From stirring imaginary soup for 2.5 hours to shooting light beams through a crystal prism. This is what purple tier enchantments do. They don't just improve things. They rebuild them from the ground up. Let's test it. I closed my eyes and activated the new technique. My mental energy reached out and grabbed the faint, colorful ambient elements floating around my hotel room. Pulled them in, compressed them, shaped them into a beam of multicolored light. Aimed it at the crystal crucible. Whoosh. The beam pierced the prism and, inside, underwent hundreds of refractions and separations, like light through a real glass prism. But instead of making a rainbow on a wall, it was sorting magical elements with surgical precision. From the crucible's base, four distinct beams emerged, blazing red for fire, deep blue for water, emerald green for wind, and heavy amber for earth. Pure, clean, separated. 5 minutes passed. Ding, a single red drop of magical energy crystallized at the bottom. 5 minutes. Not 2.5 hours. 5 minutes. And the quality? Not inert garbage. The notification said, lustrous. That's not bottom-tier sludge. That's premium product. Probably comparable to what mid-tier Mage Tower students produce. The alchemist apprentices slave away for 150 minutes to get 1 drop of muddy magic water. I just got a clean, shiny drop in 5 minutes by shooting a light beam through a fancy crystal. That's a 30-fold efficiency increase. From the worst meditation technique in existence to something that might actually be competitive. The Mage Towers spent centuries building walls to keep people like me out. The Alchemist Guild created a barely functional alternative that they controlled through quotas and contracts. And I just took their industrial garbage, fused it with a level 4 moth soul essence, and turned it into something that makes their entire gatekeeping system look like a joke. I opened my eyes in my dark attic room, grinning so wide my face hurt. 2 crystals acquired. 1 used. 1 backup. 1 meditation technique learned. 1 immediately upgraded to a level that would make the mage establishment lose their collective minds. I am now officially a mage. The worst mage in the world, according to the original technique specs. The best mage in the world, according to my cheat system's opinion. Same starting point. Very different trajectories. Next stop, certification exam. Then nobody questions why my gear glows. I lay back on the bed, feeling magical energy, real magical energy, clean and bright, slowly accumulating in my body for the very first time. It felt like sunrise inside my chest. I reached out and touched that first drop of freshly brewed magic with my finger. Boom. Not pain, release. Like a dam breaking inside my soul. Ripples exploded outward from my fingertip, carrying the moth sonic frequencies mixed with prismatic light waves. Sound and light fused into a resonance that hit the walls of my tiny mental space like a wrecking ball. Crack, crack, crack. The invisible barriers of my cramped little mental closet shattered like a mirror hit with a baseball bat. My field of vision yanked backward as the space expanded in every direction, 10 times, 20 times, inflating like a balloon on steroids. When the light faded, I was standing in a completely different place. No more claustrophobic black box. Now I was in a vast open space with infinite void above me. Below my feet, a wide, bowl-shaped basin, like a natural pond, except completely bone-dry. The cracked bottom looked like a desert that hadn't seen rain in 1,000 years. My crystal crucible floated serenely in the center. That single drop of magic I'd just produced had fallen to the basin floor and been instantly absorbed, leaving only the faintest damp spot on the parched surface. So this is a mage's spirit sea? I crouched down and touched the cracked ground, grinning uncontrollably. Technically, calling this a sea was generous. It was more like a spirit puddle, a spirit suggestion of moisture. But according to every book I'd read, the moment you open a spirit sea, no matter how small, you officially qualify as a first circle mage. I could feel the difference. My mental energy had undergone a massive quality upgrade. Quantity 2. Night and day transformation. Now I just needed an actual spell to cast for the certification exam. Good news. Spells were way easier to get than meditation techniques. The mage establishment's entire monopoly strategy was built around controlling meditation methods, because without magic power, knowing spells is useless. It's like having bullets but no gun. So they guarded meditation techniques like nuclear codes, but were relatively lax about spell knowledge floating around. Which meant, black market shopping trip. Valen City's black market was located underground, accessed through a sewer staircase that smelled like someone had been fermenting regrets down there for centuries. And the market itself? Nothing like the mysterious, torchlit, sophisticated underground bazaar I'd imagined from novels. This was a dump. A literal underground garbage sale. Dim lights. Dirty oilcloth spread on the ground instead of proper stalls. Goods thrown in piles. Blood-stained weapons. Suspicious monster organs. Stolen armor with the original owner's blood still on it. The air was a cocktail of cheap booze, rotting flesh, and preservation chemicals that could strip paint. Every seller wrapped in cloaks and face coverings, showing only greedy, paranoid eyes. Every buyer equally hidden, communicating in whispers and hand signals. The whole place felt like a convention for people who'd made exclusively bad life choices. I ignored the rusty swords and weird-smelling organs. I was here for one thing, thought imprint crystals. These crystals were the black market's biggest gotcha game. Without using one, you can't tell what knowledge is stored inside. Could be a warrior's basic chop technique. Could be a rogue's stealth footwork. Could be a mage's spell model. Could be literal garbage like advanced turnip farming, total blind box. The odds of finding a meditation technique inside one? About 1 in 10 million. Basically a fantasy world scratch-off lottery ticket. I spent 2 hours getting scammed. One guy tried to sell me Farmer's 108 Scythe Strikes as a legendary swordmaster inheritance. Another had a crystal that my system identified as containing Beginner's Guide to Mushroom Identification. These people were shameless. Then, in the most remote, dirt-smelling corner of the market, I spotted it. A slightly dim blue crystal sitting on a grimy oilcloth. Still had grave dirt on it that the seller hadn't bothered to clean. "What's in this crystal?" I rasped in my best mysterious buyer voice. The scrawny seller's eyes lit up like he'd spotted a fish near the hook. He puffed up proudly. "Excellent taste, sir. My boys just risked their lives to dig this out of an ancient ice mage's tomb up north. Inside is the real deal, the spell model for Great Blizzard, a third circle combat spell. Most destructive ice magic you can get. Slap it on your forehead and you're casting. Guaranteed to pass any mage certification. I picked it up. Immediately felt a sharp, bone-deep cold that made my fingers go numb. Convincing. Anyone else would have believed the ice mage story. But that tingle wasn't ice energy. My cheat system was already scanning. Item. Thought imprint crystal, normal, contain knowledge, arc hand, first circle mid-level spell/lightning type. My heart slammed against my ribs. Arc hand. A legitimate, mid-tier, first circle spell. Not the fake ice garbage the seller was peddling. It was a lightning spell. The numbing cold was actually compressed electrical energy, creating a nerve-tingling sensation that felt like ice to the uninitiated. Second major steal of my career. Right after the 75 silver cloak. On the outside, I casually tossed the crystal back onto the dirty cloth like it offended me. So it says Great Blizzard? I said, dripping with skepticism. Give me a real price. The seller straightened up, extended 2 fingers, and delivered the most audacious number I'd ever heard. Sir, this is a genuine high-level spell. Fixed price, 1,200 gold. Not 1 copper less, 1,200 gold. For a crystal he probably dug out of a ditch, containing a spell he couldn't even correctly identify, sold by a man who definitely didn't pay taxes. Time to haggle this liar into the ground. And enjoy every second of it. Because I was about to buy my mage certification exam ticket for pennies on the dollar. Again, being a bargain-hunting transmigrator with X-ray vision for treasure? Best cheat ever. Back at my hotel room, sitting on my brick-hard bed, rolling a slightly dirty blue crystal between my fingers. My brand-new purchase from the underground garbage sale. The haggling had been beautiful. That grave robber seller spent 20 minutes swearing on his ancestors that this was a legendary ice mage's heritage spell. Great Blizzard. Third circle. Most destructive ice magic known to mankind. Meanwhile, my system was calmly displaying. This is a lightning spell, you absolute donut. The cold feeling is just electricity numbing your nerves. I couldn't exactly say, hey buddy, my cheat menu says you're wrong. So instead, I played the skeptical buyer. 20 minutes of back and forth theater. He started at 1,200 gold. I started walking away. He chased me. I insulted his merchandise. He begged. Final price, 350 gold. From 1,200 to 350 because he didn't know what he was actually selling. The man was literally holding a lightning gun and advertising it as an ice cream maker. My wallet was crying though. Between space stones, alchemy bombs, and now this crystal, my funds were nearly gone. Thank God the moth's body parts, minus the eyes, had sold well at auction. Otherwise I'd be broke and spell-less. Worth it though. So worth it. Crystal on forehead. Slap. Crack. Cool tingling sensation flowing into my brain. Way smoother than the first time. Having an open spirit sea apparently makes knowledge downloads feel like a gentle stream instead of a fire hose. 3 seconds of mild discomfort and done. I dove into my mental space. The beautiful crystal crucible was still floating above my spirit sea, which now had a small puddle of colorful magic liquid at the bottom. A few hours of meditation's worth of savings. Not much, but enough to experiment. I pulled up the arc hand spell model from my system. A semi-transparent blue triangle materialized. A flat 2D structure made of 3 spell nodes, connected by magic circuits, each node containing intricate magical runes. Curiosity hit me. How hard can drawing one of these runes be? I focused my mental energy and tried to copy the simplest-looking rune freehand. 1 minute. 3 minutes. 10 minutes. My spiritual form literally glitched from the strain. That single rune, the easiest one, I couldn't even hold the first stroke stable for more than a second. The tiniest mental wobble, and the whole thing dissolved like wet cotton candy. This wasn't drawing. This was performing brain surgery on a bomb while riding a unicycle on a tightrope. In an earthquake. Now I understood why mages are treated like gods in this society. Learning magic the traditional way is insanely hard. Years of training just to draw basic runes without accidentally blowing up your own brain. Mages absolutely deserve their status. That's nuts. Fortunately, I didn't need to hand draw anything. I had the pre-made spell model. I just needed to pour magic through it, like plugging in a Christmas tree instead of building one from scratch. My crucible could separate magic by element type. Arcane was lightning, so I extracted only the blue-white lightning aspect magic from my puddle. A glowing stream of electrical energy rose from the pool and connected to the spell model's input port, like a dried riverbed filling with spring meltwater. Like plugging power into a dormant circuit board. The magic raced through the circuits. HMMM, first node, lit. Blinding blue glow. Second node, lit. Third node, lit. All 3 nodes active. Circuit complete. A deep thunderclap rolled through my spirit sea. In the real world, my eyes snapped open. My right hand was already raised. I didn't remember lifting it. And in my palm, a storm was being born. ZZD crack. Blue-white lightning arcs, violent and alive, erupted from my palm and started crawling up my fingers like electric snakes. The whole room lit up in strobing blue-white flashes. My face, half shadowed, half illuminated by my own lightning, looked like something out of a movie poster. Raw power, coursing through me. Not borrowed from a magic gem in my bow. This was mine. Born in MY Spirit Sea, channeled through MY circuits. I wasn't borrowing someone else's fire this time. I was the source. The difference between using weapon gems and casting your own spell was like the difference between throwing a grenade and being able to generate explosions from your bare hands. I did it. The words burst out before I could stop them, which was a huge mistake. The emotional spike from my own excitement disrupted my mental focus. The magic circuit flickered. The smooth flow of power hiccuped. Puffed the magnificent, awe-inspiring, movie poster-worthy lightning display on my hand made a sad little fart sound and went completely dark. Then the disrupted magic circuit backfired. A jolt of static electricity zapped my own fingers. SSSSS. I flailed my hand around like I'd touched a hot stove, shaking out the numbness. My thunder god descends. Pose collapsed into man who stuck a fork in an outlet. Cool guy moment. Destroyed. By my own enthusiasm. The spell model went dark, waiting to be recharged. But you know what? I sat on the edge of the bed, looking at my still trembling, slightly smoking hand, and started laughing. Quietly at first, then wider, then a full-on, ear-to-ear, child-on-Christmas morning grin. I just cast a spell. Me, the transmigrated orphan, the self-taught ranger, the guy who couldn't even get past the age requirement for mage school, the guy the system was designed to keep permanently locked out. I just generated lightning from my bare hand. In a world where magic equals power, where mages sit on top of every hierarchy, where the elite spent centuries building walls to keep people like me on the bottom, I just climbed over that wall. With a 75 silver cloak, a contraband crystal, a dead moth's enchantment, and pure, unstoppable stubbornness. Again, I shook out my fingers, closed my eyes, and dove back into the spirit sea. The remaining lightning magic in my puddle wasn't much. But tonight wasn't about volume. It was about control. About making that spell model light up smoothly, stay lit, and not electrocute its own operator. Tomorrow I'd walk into the Mage Guild and take the certification exam. Tonight, I was going to practice until I could hold that lightning without getting excited about it. Okay, I'd probably still get excited. But at least I wouldn't short-circuit myself. From broke orphan ranger to first circle lightning mage in one evening. The mage towers can keep their marble halls and incense ceremonies. I learned magic in a cheap attic room with a stolen crystal and a repurposed cooking pot. And honestly, that feels way more badass. 5 days of nonstop lightning practice later, I was standing in front of the inner city gate, a 30-meter monster made of obsidian and enchanted gold, trying to figure out how to get inside without waiting 3 months. See, yesterday I'd gone to the outer city's administrative office to apply for an inner city pass. The requirements list was educational. You could skip the line if you were a guild executive, a platinum rank adventurer, any certified mage, even first circle, a church official, or had a recommendation letter from nobility or a major organization. Otherwise, fill out 15 pages of background check paperwork and wait 3 months minimum. 6 months if they were cracking down. The clerk looked at me through his nostrils and delivered this information like he was reading my funeral notice. I checked my qualifications against the list. Failed every single category. The requirements had been specifically designed by the universe to exclude one person, me. It's just a certification exam. Why is getting inside harder than the actual test? But then I noticed something beautiful. Any level of mage gets in, even first circle, even a baby mage who learned magic 5 days ago. Like, hypothetically me. If I look like a mage and do mage things, the rules become suggestions, right? So this morning, I stripped off every piece of ranger gear. No leather armor. No daggers. My beautiful 1,000 gold bow went into the spatial backpack. I put on a brand new, mage apprentice robe I'd bought from a tailor for 2 silver coins, stiff, cheap, but wizard-shaped, and walked up to the gate like I owned the place. Halt. 2 steel halberds crossed in front of my chest. 2 armored guards looked me up and down with, "You don't belong here," eyes. Inner city zone. Show your pass. I didn't reach for any documents. Instead, I slowly raised my right hand. The guards blinked at each other. Is this guy threatening us? 1 second. 3 seconds. 5 seconds. 8 seconds of me standing there with my hand in the air like a weirdo. Nearby pedestrians stopped walking. Everyone was staring at the strange man doing a one-handed statue impression. Hey, are you trying to provoke? Under my hood, sweat was pouring down my face. Come on, come on, come on. Second node, connect already. Stabilize, you stupid circuit. My cool, mysterious exterior? Pure acting. Inside I was panicking. 5 days of practice in my quiet hotel room was very different from trying to channel magic while surrounded by noise, guards, and the pressure of public performance. My spirit sea was basically a dried puddle. Threading that tiny amount of lightning magic through 3 circuit nodes while maintaining perfect concentration in a crowd was like performing brain surgery during an earthquake while someone screams in your ear. 10 agonizing seconds. Then, the spell model ignited. ZZZT crack pop. Blue-white lightning exploded from my raised hand. Electric arcs the size of snakes writhed around my fingers, throwing off sparks and filling the air with the sharp smell of ozone. Emma magic? The guard's eyes shrank to pinpoints. This wasn't some street performer's trick. This was raw elemental power being generated from nothing. Only one kind of person does that. A mage. Halberds retracted so fast they almost hit the guards in their own faces. Expressions flipped from interrogation mode to maximum bootlicking in under a second. Forgive us, honored mage. We were blind. Didn't recognize your eminence. But the younger guard, bless his dutiful heart, still tried. Sir, even for esteemed spellcasters, regulations technically require a pass for record keep. My eyes went ice cold. Not by choice. My face muscles had locked up from the sheer concentration required to keep the lightning running. I clenched my raised fist. Crack. The compressed magic surged. A thumb-thick bolt of deep blue lightning whipped out from between my fingers like an electric snake, cracking the air 3 centimeters from the young guard's nose. His nose hairs instantly singed. Blue electricity reflected in his terrified eyeballs. He went completely blank. Legs gave out. I stared at him in absolute silence. Not because I was being intimidating, because if I opened my mouth to speak even one word, my concentration would break and the lightning would go, puffed, and die in front of everyone. Instant exposure. Game over. Fraud detected. My only option was to double down on the silent murder glare and let the electricity do the talking. We're so sorry, SIR. The older, smarter guard grabbed his petrified colleague and yanked him behind cover. He was bowing so hard his spine might have permanently curved. This rookie doesn't understand etiquette. A mage of your stature gracing our gate is an honor. Please come through. Right this way. He kicked the barrier open and practically rolled out a red carpet. I squeezed one syllable through my nose without moving my jaw. Humph. Then I marched through the gate, lightning still crackling, face carved from stone, looking like the angriest wizard in the history of angry wizards. Every person in the vicinity pressed themselves against walls and stared in awe. 5 minutes into the inner city. Streets getting fancier. Gate completely out of sight behind me. I ducked into an alley. Ha! I collapsed against a brick wall like a deflating balloon. The lightning vanished instantly. My right arm dropped like a dead fish. Cold sweat was literally dripping off my chin. Oh my God, that was close. I almost lost it at least 4 times. Thank the heavens I read so many arrogant villain novels in my past life. I shook out my trembling hand, replaying the guard's singed nose-hair face in my memory, and burst out laughing. The whole plan was hatched last night. 3 months of bureaucratic waiting? Or one terrifying performance as short-tempered lightning mage who doesn't answer questions? Easy choice. Win condition, walk in like a boss. Lose condition, lightning fizzles out publicly. I get arrested for impersonating a mage, fill out the same paperwork anyway. Worst case was just embarrassment plus paperwork, same as doing nothing. So I gambled, and won. No wonder novel villains love power tripping. That felt actually kind of amazing. I straightened my bargain bin wizard robe, wiped the last of the sweat off my face, and turned to look at the inner city properly for the first time. Time to find the Mage Guild and make this fake identity real. Before someone asks me to cast a second spell and discovers that my entire magical repertoire is one hand of lightning that takes 10 seconds to boot up and can't survive a sneeze. The inner city was a different planet. White stone streets, so clean you could eat off them. Buildings covered in magical carvings that glowed with permanent enchantments for dust repelling and temperature control. Even the air smelled expensive, some kind of premium aromatherapy blend instead of the outer city's signature, horse manure and broken dreams, fragrance. The Holy Light Cathedral here made the one in Coldwind City look like a garden shed. 5 mage towers pierced the sky like arrogant needles, each one with a tiny elemental tornado spinning at the top. Because apparently normal rooftops are for peasants. And nestled between those towers, shorter but wider, built like an intellectual fortress, the Mage Guild, Valen City branch. My destination. Magic signposts guided me right to the front door. I pushed open the heavy brass entrance and immediately felt out of place. No crowds. No sweaty warriors arguing over bounties. No noise at all. Just a cathedral-quiet marble hall with a few robed figures gliding silently past each other, exchanging microscopic nods. The floor was so polished I could see my own reflection judging me. I approached the reception desk, made from wood so expensive it probably had a higher net worth than me. "Hi, I'm here for mage certification." The young receptionist looked up, saw my 2 silver coin bargain bin apprentice robe, and her eyes performed a complete journey from confusion to disbelief to expertly suppressed horror. To her credit, her smile only flickered for half a second. "Of course, sir. Which mage tower are you from? Or who is your instructor? I'll need to pull your academic records." "No tower. No instructor." "Pardon?" Her eyes went wide. In this world, a wild mage, someone who figured out magic without institutional backing, was roughly as common as finding a diamond in a toilet. Theoretically possible. Practically unheard of. She filled out my paperwork in stunned silence and handed me a numbered iron tag. "Second floor, examination room 3. The Mage Guild charged 0 fees for certification. Not 1 copper. Because when you're the most powerful professional organization on the continent, you don't need registration fees. You are the economy. Rich people problems," I muttered, climbing the spiral staircase. I pushed open room 3 expecting maybe one bored clerk I could flash some lightning at and call it a day. Instead, 3 senior mages in formal robes sitting behind a table. A dedicated scribe taking notes. 6 eyes locking onto me with the combined intensity of a job interview at the world's most prestigious corporation. "You need 3 judges for a basic first circle test?" I swallowed hard. This was more stressful than the City Gate performance. At least the guards were dumb. These people were professional magic users who would immediately notice if something was off. The elderly mage in the center smiled warmly. "Don't be nervous, young man. Just relax. Pretend this is your personal meditation chamber. Whenever you're ready, show us your spell." "Thanks, old man. I was moderately nervous before. Now I'm catastrophically nervous." Eyes closed. Block out everything. Sink into Spirit Sea. Compared to the noisy City Gate, this quiet room was actually better for concentration. The magic flowed easier. 1 second. 2. 7 seconds. Crack. Lightning erupted from my palm. Blue-white arcs dancing across my fingers, throwing sparks, filling the room with ozone smell. 7 seconds instead of 10. New personal record. "Thank you." Quiet examination rooms. Arc hand? The middle-aged examiner on the left raised an eyebrow, visibly surprised. I held it for 5 seconds, just long enough to prove stability, then cleanly cut the circuit. Smooth shutdown, no accidental self-electrocution. Growth. The elderly examiner leaned forward with genuine curiosity. "Mr. Victor, your form indicates no Mage Tower affiliation. Where did you obtain your meditation technique and this spell?" I'd rehearsed this speech approximately 10,000 times. Pure luck, honestly. I put on my best world-weary adventurer face. Few months back, exploring an unnamed ruin in Grey Whisper Forest. Party hit a trap. I fell into a hidden basement. No treasure, just two crumbling imprint crystals about to disintegrate. One taught meditation, one taught lightning. Classic cover story. Unverifiable ruins. Unrepeatable lucky accident. The fantasy world equivalent of, I found it on the ground. Every low-rank adventurer's excuse for unexpected power-ups. The old examiner nodded thoughtfully, apparently weighing the story's plausibility. Then the middle-aged examiner on the left let out a sharp, contemptuous laugh. Ridiculous lie, his eyes were razor-sharp. Vulture energy. You think the Mage Guild is a place where you can waltz in with fairy tales? A meditation technique and a combat spell just happened to be lying in a hole you fell into. He stood up abruptly, voice dripping with authority and condescension. Open your spirit sea immediately. I'm going to inspect your meditation technique. My blood went cold. Open your spirit sea for inspection. That's basically this world's version of unlock your phone and let me read everything. Except instead of embarrassing search history, he'd see my bootleg alchemist meditation technique, my cheat system, and probably my entire collection of stolen enchantments. Best case, he discovers the contraband technique and I go to prison. Worst case, the forced mental intrusion turns me into a vegetable or kills me outright. I respectfully decline. My voice came out colder than I intended, but I meant every word. The Mage Guild certification standard requires demonstrating a first circle spell. There is no regulation requiring disclosure of one's meditation technique. Insolent. The examiner didn't even wait for me to finish. He just attacked. The air rippled. Light bent. A massive, freezing wall of psychic force erupted from him and slammed toward my forehead like a battering ram aimed at my brain. He was trying to crack open my spirit sea by force. Right here, in an examination room, during what was supposed to be a certification test. These mages are actually insane. The attack came too fast. No time to dodge. No time to block. My physical reflexes were useless against a purely mental assault. My spirit sea's defenses were tissue paper against a senior mage's psychic force. I was about to get brain scrambled in a government building during a job application. Then, from inside my robe, something detonated. A blinding burst of silver-white light, radiating holiness and absolute divine authority, erupted from my chest like a flashbang grenade made of pure sanctity. The Dawn Goddess's mark. The buff she'd left on my soul back in Coldwind City. The one I'd been annoyed about getting. It activated on its own. An impenetrable wall of sacred silver light materialized between me and the incoming psychic attack. Dark resistance, 50%. Massive bonus against curses, death magic, and negative energy, and apparently, also protects against arrogant mages who try to lobotomize you during exams. Thank you, divine OCD goddess. You keep saving my life in ways I never expected. The examiner's psychic battering ram hit that silver wall, and, to be continued in the next chapter, presumably with that examiner having a very bad day. The examiner's psychic battering ram hit my holy shield and went PSSSD, like a snowball thrown at a hot frying pan. Dissolved instantly. Completely neutralized. The Dawn Church token I'd been carrying as a, just in case, emergency card had activated on its own. I'd originally brought it thinking, maybe I'll need to name-drop the church if things get political. I did not expect someone to try to crack my skull open during a certification exam. Ugh. The examiner, Luke, apparently, staggered backward, face going white as paper. Then he saw the silver holy light leaking through my robe, and his arrogance turned to horror. You're with the church? Dead silence in the room. Nobody moved. That's enough, Luke. The elderly examiner in the center spoke first, his voice carrying the weight of someone who is done with this nonsense. Forcibly entering someone's spirit sea is explicitly forbidden by guild regulations. He stood up, cleared his throat, and officially declared, Mr. Victor, your arcane was flawless. Your magic purity is surprisingly impressive. As lead examiner, I certify you as passed. Then he looked at me with gentle eyes. Would you mind following me to my office? Some enrollment paperwork I'd like to handle personally. I shot Luke one last icy glare, the kind that says, I will remember your face forever, and followed the old man out without a word. 12th floor. an office stuffed with books and star charts. He handed me a bronze badge engraved with a six-pointed star. Your official mage certification. From today, you enjoy all legal privileges of a licensed spellcaster across all 6 human kingdoms. I pocketed it like it was loose change. Normally, I'd be doing backflips, but that examiner's stunt had nuked my enthusiasm to absolute zero. The old man sighed, poured me tea personally, and started explaining. I must apologize for Luke's behavior, but please understand, his hostility isn't personal. He walked to the window and looked at the 5 mage towers outside. Then he told me the real story. For centuries, magic was a closed, brutal monopoly. Every spell, every rune, every scrap of knowledge, locked inside those cold towers. Senior mages had life-and-death power over their apprentices. Many students never learned real magic at all. They were just lab rats. Expendable test subjects wearing student robes. Where there's oppression, there's rebellion, he said quietly. Apprentices poisoning their master's meditation incense. Sabotaging teleportation circles. Some even detonated the elemental cores at the bottom of entire towers out of pure desperation. It was a very dark, very bloody era. I listened silently, thinking, same story, different world. Absolute monopoly breeds absolute resentment. Tale as old as time. Then came the turning point. About 1,000 years ago, other professions organized. Warriors, knights, even rogues formed guilds, sharing techniques across schools. Their numbers and quality exploded. Some even developed anti-mage specializations. Rogues literally created a spellbreaker combat school designed to hunt wizards. 300 years ago, some forward-thinking mages realized, if we keep hiding in our towers while everyone else levels up together, we're dead. They walked out, shared their life's work, and built the Mage Guild, an open, collaborative institution. The towers that refused to change? They became the Tower Faction. They view the guild as traitors. But they also desperately want access to the guild's growing spell library. So a compromise exists. Tower mages can serve as guild staff in exchange for learning guild spells. That's why Luke was an examiner. Tower Faction spy, basically. Planted inside the guild through the exchange program. With all the arrogance and territorial aggression that comes with centuries of, I'm better than you, culture. So basically, I thought, this is open source community versus corporate monopoly. Linux versus Apple. And I just got attacked by a corporate fanboy during a job interview at the open source office. The old examiner walked back to his desk, straightened his robes, and extended his hand. I haven't properly introduced myself. I'm Austin Blackwood, president of the Valen City Mage Guild branch. The president. The actual boss of this entire building had personally sat in on my beginner's exam. I didn't shake his hand immediately. Presidents don't waste time on first circle nobodies unless they want something. He noticed my caution and smiled, then glanced at an intelligence file his secretary had delivered with the badge. Mr. Victor. Or should I use a different title? His wise old eyes seemed to see straight through my discount wizard costume. Perhaps. The ranger with the remarkable archery? The one with mysterious movement techniques? Or maybe, the friend blessed by the holy light, every muscle in my body locked. I was half a heartbeat from activating 3-beat and crashing through the window. This old fox had run a background check on me. In the time it took to walk from the exam room to his office, he waved his hand calmly. Relax. The guild faction welcomes all souls seeking truth. I don't care why a ranger can open a spirit sea. I don't care about your connection to the church. What I saw was remarkably pure lightning magic. I'd guess your meditation technique produces lustrous or even pristine quality mana, and the courage to stand your ground when Luke tried to bully you. His eyes turned intensely sincere. Recruitment mode activated. Join the guild faction, Victor. Your secrets will be protected. We can provide spell resources, magical knowledge, and support. I stared at him. This was the second time a major organization had tried to recruit me. First the church, now the Mage Guild. Everyone wants a piece of the mysterious Ranger Mage church friend who shouldn't exist. And all I wanted was to pass a simple test and stop my gear from glowing suspiciously. Why does everything in my life turn into a faction recruitment pitch? Mage Guild, 6th floor library. Smelled like expensive incense and old knowledge. Temperature controlled by magic. Lighting designed to be perfect for reading. Chairs so soft they should be illegal. I was buried in a velvet armchair surrounded by stacks of magic textbooks, pretending to read while actually having an existential crisis about my life choices. Why is it so hard to just be a neutral party in this world? Let me rewind a few hours. After the exam room incident, Guild President Austin invited me to his office for a friendly chat. He pitched me on joining the Guild faction, the open-source rebels fighting against the Tower faction monopolists. If I'd had any choice, I would have politely declined and parkoured out the nearest window. I came here for one thing, an official mage badge to explain why my gear glows. That's IT. I didn't sign up for a 1,000-year political war between magical frat houses. I'm a first circle baby mage whose lightning spell takes 7 seconds to boot up. In a war between archmage-level powerhouses, I'm not even cannon fodder. I'm the cannon fodder's lunch. But then Austin dropped the bomb that sealed my fate. Mr. Victor, as a wild mage who somehow possesses a meditation technique producing exceptionally pure mana, without any tower training, you are, without question, the #1 heretic on the Tower faction's burn list. I thought about Luke's greedy, predatory eyes. The way he tried to crack my brain open without a second's hesitation. In an exam room. During a routine test. Yeah, if I walked out of this building without guild protection, that guy would have me kidnapped, dissected, and filed under research materials before sunset. Fine. I'll join. Not enthusiastic. Not happy. Just practical. I didn't sign a blood contract or swear an oath. If things get too political, I can always disappear to some small town and lie low. They can't put out a continental manhunt for a first circle nobody. Probably. But since I was on the guild's boat now, time to loot the ship. This 6th-floor library was mage members only. For a guy like me who'd learned magic by slapping discount crystals on his forehead, the theoretical knowledge in these books was worth more than gold. I was a dried-out sponge thrown into an ocean of information. Then I hit the jackpot paragraph. Regarding spell slot construction and fixation mechanics, I leaned forward so fast I almost fell out of my chair. The book explained, once you've fully mastered a spell, you can permanently install its model into your spirit sea, partially submerged in your mana pool. In this state, the spell stays permanently pre-charged, all nodes lit, all circuits ready. When you need it in combat, you don't have to spend 7 agonizing seconds manually threading mana through circuits. You just send one tiny mental command, and the spell fires instantly. After use, the spell slot enters cooldown while the mana pool auto-recharges it. 0. Cast. Time. My brain exploded with understanding. That's how Carl did it. That dark mage from the Bone Tyrant raid. I'd been so confused about how he could shadow jump and immediately fire dark arrows with absolutely no delay. While I'm standing there for 7 seconds trying to connect 3 stupid circuit nodes, this guy was teleporting and shooting like it was breathing. He had his core spells permanently installed as spell slots. Preloaded, pre-charged, instant activation.